From downtown, this is Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam, and you're listening to NintenDomain Podcast. Boom shakalaka!
This week at NintenDomain, I got House of the Dead Remake, and Nintendo bought some land.
I finally earned this game's respect.
I walked around the whole world.
Welcome to NintenDomain Podcast, episode 316. Your place to hear Nintendo fans talk about Sega games and Sega-inspired games on Nintendo Switch. And we are your hosts. I'm Trey, Sand is for Losers, Johnson.
I'm Jeremy, Godskin Peeler, Mikowski.
And I'm John, Breathing Again Knitter.
Breathing Again. I saw that you did a thing that we talked about a bunch of times on this show. And we could even start with it if you want, I guess.
Sure.
It's pretty milestone-y, I would say.
Yeah, I was happy to see you playing Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I could see it through the internet, and I was like, oh, cool, John's playing that again. I saw you put like over 200 hours into the game, like not recently, but total.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool, you're playing that game again.
Yep. Not only that, but I beat the game.
You did?
Finally, after all these years, I went and beat the game. Now, I didn't want to just I'll tell you how this came about. It came about because of my folders.
Folders are great. They seem to have helped you find your other games that you forgot were there.
Exactly. Well, I have the folder of my backlog, and I wanted to dip into the backlog, and that is the most burning spot in the whole backlog. So I went for Breath of the Wild, but it took me a day or two to really decide I was going to do it. And then before I even fired up the game, I had to come up with a strategy, because I did not want to just jump in after 4 years away and beat Ganon, and that would be anticlimactic.
Sure.
So I thought, what am I going to do? Am I going to try and beat all the shrines? No, I don't quite want to do that. Try to go for some other side quests and all that. I decided what I would do is I would start at one corner of the map, and I would walk around the whole world. And I thought that would just help me to appreciate the scale of the game again. It would make it seem as big as it did back 4 years ago when I was actually playing it.
Did you have the hero's path to help you, or did you just do it on your own? I don't remember. Does it show you the hero's path before or after you break it or beat it? Because I know you have the DLC.
Yeah, it shows you as soon as you download the DLC. So
okay, so you can see the little line go across the map and all that while you're doing it. So you know for sure that you walked from one side to the other.
So I went to the top left corner, which is snowy mountains and all that stuff, and then I set up a waypoint for the top right corner. I just walked there, and it took me about each stretch that would take me probably an hour, about an hour or so, maybe a little bit more than that. But I was taking my sweet time with it. I was, again, the whole point being not to run around the map as fast as I could, but to take it all in again.
Yeah, re-immerse yourself in the world.
Re-immerse myself, right. And I was stopping. I found a few shrines along the way, and I beat 3 or 4 extra shrines that I hadn't found. Yeah, and it was just, I think that was a great way to do it. For anybody who's looking to get back into Breath of the Wild after a long time, I say that's the way you do it. You just take a walk around the whole world, and you'll feel this game is as big as I remember. When I got to walking around the whole world, it probably took me about 5 hours or so. I did it over 2 days. And then I decided that wasn't enough, so I decided to also do an X. So I started at one corner, bottom left corner, went to the top right, and then top left went to the bottom right. And at that point, I did go to the hero's map, and it was funny to see my whole journey, because it was scattershot all over the place. But then the last portion is just doing a loop around the world and then a big X.
Yeah.
Done.
It's kind of like a Confederate flag.
Yep. Yeah, that was not my intention.
You're like, Cairo's being taken.
I was thinking about some of the stupid stuff from the newer X-Men movies where they have a tendency to just get the letter X in it. I think it was it X-Men Apocalypse, the one with with Apocalypse in there, where there's a part where Magneto just drops 2 giant metal things that just make an X, just for no reason. There's absolutely no reason in the movie for that to happen. It's just like, doof, doof, X. And it just reminded me of that part. It's so dumb, and it makes no sense. But it's like, yeah, we can make big X's in our movies. We made enough of these. We're fine with just throwing giant X's at you. That's what that reminded me of.
Well, much like Stan Lee, the letter X has an agreement that it gets to show up in every movie.
Yeah. Yeah, what I was thinking is, was like Ganon's castle in the middle of the X then? Isn't it supposed to be isn't it in the middle of the map somewhere? Like, would it have...
Correct. Yeah, it's right in the middle.
So it's like X marks the spot. So like you made the X, and then you go to the middle, and then you take care of...
Take care of Ganon, yep. Yeah, and there was a couple things that I had forgotten throughout the game, and actually I encountered one of them, unfortunately, as I was fighting Ganon. I got like, well, first of all, I got the 4 divine beasts, so they shot the lasers and they took out half his energy and all that. And then I was trying to figure out how to actually attack Ganon. I used some of my the light arrows, and like that worked for a bit. You know, he's got like this arm cannon thing, and you shoot the arm cannon with the light arrows, that takes out some energy. But then he goes to his final form, and like he's impenetrable with the light arrows. And so I was trying to figure out for like a good 20 minutes, what do I do? He keeps blasting me with lasers, and I'm dodging the lasers and all that stuff. I had no idea what to do. And finally I had to look it up. And it turned out that I forgot that there was the move where if you time it, where he's about to blast you with the laser.
Oh, the deflect.
And then you use your shield at the right second, then he deflects. Mm-hmm. So I'd completely forgotten about that. And there was no way that I was going to remember that, 4 years on. And so I just looked it up on YouTube, and there it was. After that, I finally beat him. And then, I really liked the final form where he was, I guess it's I said final form before. So there was one form where he turns orange and he's like impenetrable. And then there's the final actual form where you're outside on the field. And that was really, really cool to see. I'd never looked up the ending to Breath of the Wild before, so I didn't really have any idea of what it looked like. I successfully stayed away from it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really apt close to the game, to have it not be in a dungeon or in a castle or whatever, but out there on the field where you spent the majority of your time. I thought that was pretty cool.
I mean, that the people who made Breath of the Wild like flat out said that they were inspired by Hyrule Warriors for putting their bosses outside. Like they said because the Hyrule Warriors game had a bunch of boss battles that you did outside of castles, and they said that was really cool and that they wanted to incorporate that into Zelda. So supposedly those bosses came from the Hyrule Warriors game on Wii U that came out before that, and that was where the inspiration came from. That's what they were saying. So you got Hyrule Warriors to thank for that, I guess.
So for the divine beasts as well, you think?
I mean, you fight them outside too, right?
They are very Xenoblade-y.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I just remember Ian Noma saying that like he thought it was really cool to see like these big boss battles outside and being like, well, I could do that. I mean, the Darksiders games did that too, like which those games are very much like Zelda, and they're really cool. But yeah, they had some really cool outside battles also. But yeah, he said that the Hyrule Warriors inspired him to have to do outside boss battles as well. So the only thing I really remember about Ganon is that he turns into a pig, right? Towards the end.
Yeah, he turns into a big glowing pink big creature.
He becomes the big pig, and you have to beat him on the horse, right? Like more or less. And I think
my
horse
shoot him with the light arrows.
Yeah, I think like my horse died or something. Like got fucked up at the end, and I don't know. I really don't remember it that much.
That happened to me. My horse got killed really quick, and then I just remember the first time I beat him, I just took him out on foot. It really wasn't that hard, but I was OP, which I'm sure you were too, John.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I remember because Jeremy and we did do like a full on like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild spoiler cast that we did on the show, and I remember us talking about like that Ganondorf was seemed like a little bit of a letdown when you finally got to him. Probably because we had been exploring for so long and we were just too strong. Like sometimes that happens, where like a lot of times in RPGs, you fight the mega boss and that boss is hard, and then you fight the regular boss and the boss is dumb, like because you're used to fighting the mega boss or whatever. So maybe
I think it's kind of cool though with the way that they did it, where you could run up in your underwear first thing and you could fight him and it would be impossible. I think it says something that if you're spending over 140 hours in this game, whatever, that you can actually beat him pretty easily. I think that has to be a possibility, right? Because it has to be a possibility that you can be that overpowered super guy, whatever, who just comes in and wipes him out. If that wasn't a possibility, if it was just always going to be really, really hard, I think that would be to the game's detriment.
Yeah, that's always annoying where they make the final boss just incredibly annoying for no reason.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, let's just make this just really unfair. And
They let you make your own fierce deity mask with stats.
oh yeah, like make you
Also,
extra
hearty, all the hearty meals that'll restore all your energy. Plus,
Oh yeah,
give
I
you
had
extra
15 of
hearts.
those.
Yeah,
I love
you
those
can
meals.
just have that shit.
the hearty
I had
durians.
5 fairies and like 15 meals. Yep.
I mean, once you figure out those hearty meals, like why would you make anything else? You know, like that's what I did in the game. It was just hearty durian meals for days. Like, why would you make anything else? There's no point to. Just get whatever like fills your hearts up and all that. I guess if there's ones that do stats, but I never really. But I got to the end, I just didn't care about stats anymore. I just did the hearty ones.
Did you feel any particular way emotionally after it was done? Like, did it kind of feel sad, or did it feel good, or both?
Felt like closure.
Closure. Okay.
Closure. Yes.
Felt the weight
Your
off your shoulders.
therapist be like, I figured it out.
You said it's your middle name, right? You could breathe again. You could finally breathe after
Yes,
that.
I'm breathing again. Yes.
You're breathing the breath of the wild. Oh wait,
That's right.
that was what you meant.
But yeah, I'm doing the challenge where you get the motorcycle next. So I'm sort of a quarter of the way through that, and then I gotta go through and I aim to 100% the game.
Even with the Korok seeds, with the 900 Korok seeds.
Well, okay, no, not counting the 999 pieces of shit. No,
because that's just mean. I mean, you don't. I think it's just there's so many in there that they want you to be able to find a good amount, but don't. It actually. I mentioned it before, like with this versus like Arceus and all that, like that where you got to buy the extra pockets to your whatever, where you buy to where you keep like spending money to carry more stuff. That's the same way that the Korok seeds work, where you get a certain amount of Korok seeds and you can take them to the like whatever the tree guy, and he'll like give you more pockets in your in your coat or in your bag or whatever,
spots for your armor or your swords
and you only need that so far. Like you don't really need to completely max it out. Like as much as I wanted to completely max it out in Arceus, I just didn't, because it ends up getting like insanely expensive, and it's like, why even bother? And I feel like that's kind of the same way on this. Like they put so many Korok seeds in there that you'll find a decent amount that will be able for you to like make your inventory large enough for you to make it through the game. But I don't think they expect you to find all of them. I think they just want to have so many in there that people will be able to find enough to expand your inventory to a certain point and all that.
Yeah, and I think there are fun little things to find along the way as you're doing something else, but as a mission in and of themselves, I think that would be so tedious and boring to try and find all 900 of them. And did you hear the news this week that came out? The director of Breath of the Wild confirmed that all of the Korok seeds are Korok poop.
Okay.
Not just the gold poop that you win at the end. All of the seeds are Korok poop. And actually, as you get each poop, there's a little, that is the description of what it is and all. It says, I noticed, it has a distinct odor.
Oh, yeah.
So, yep, it is Korok poop.
Yeah, it doesn't say aroma. It says odor.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the night soil or whatever that they call it. It's like the same thing. It's like it's a poop.
Royal soil.
I think it was actually called the night soil, because we did an episode where we talked about it and I looked it up. But in Dragon Quest Builders, it was called the night soil, because I guess you take a dump at night in the bathroom.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
But still, yeah, it's like, pooping. It's your seed. You're leaving your seed in the toilet, in the ground, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hestu was the guy I was trying to think of. Yeah, that guy. So, but there you go. You did it. So now you can go. Now you can go get the motorcycle, and you can do as I was doing on the Wii U one, where you just take the motorcycle and you just look at the map, and you're like, which part of the map haven't I gone to? And you just ride the motorcycle there and see what's there. And that was fun for a while.
I have something to say about the motorcycle.
What's that?
I don't have it.
Oh, you never got it?
I never finished the quest to get it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So I need to go back and do that.
There's its own, like, the motorcycle is kind of its own little divine beast, which is cool. Like, the thing you do before you get the motorcycle is there's another dungeon in there. So that was neat. So you have to do, I mean, there's some kind of like tedious stuff that you have to do before we have to go from like place to place, and you probably got kind of annoyed by that and bounced off of it, because it annoyed the crap out of me too. But I had to get to that motorcycle, so I kept doing it. But the final, like when you get to the dungeon of the motorcycle, I thought was kind of cool, and the boss that you fight for the motorcycle, I thought was interesting. I don't want to say what it was because I don't want to spoil it. But
was it a guy riding a Harley?
it was Ghost Rider, actually.
Yeah.
when you got there,
Nick Cage as Ghost Rider.
Oh God, I would love to beat him up. I should have never played Ghost Rider, but no, yeah. You get there and it's Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. He's like, hey, What's up? That'd be funny. No, I liked that part of it, but the other stuff was kind of so. And I could only get so far in the the Trials of the Sword, like that was part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
The DLC where you don't, where you kind of like have to do like all those floors, but if you die, you can't save anywhere, so that's the annoying part. Like if you die, you lose all of it, and you have to start again. And all of it is just to make your Master Sword a little bit more powerful, I guess. So
I did one of those.
yeah,
I got to level 40.
yeah, but I mean, there's I guess if you do the whole thing, it makes it like twice the power or something. But I just couldn't do it. It was too much back to the beginning. Like if you fuck up like one thing, and it's like, I wish you could do like in the Persona games, for like every so many floors you can like save, and then if you die, you come back to whatever floor you saved on. Like that one, it's just you got to start over. You can't even go to like the 10th, the 20th floor or whatever. You gotta start back at 1. They'd
at least have the little like recharge stations though, where it would offer you a bunch of food and a spot to cook. So I thought that was pretty. I only did the first one, which is I think there's 3 levels. So
I like that. I just wish they would give you the option to go back to that when you die. Go back to the areas where you could cook food.
Yeah, that'd be better.
Start from there instead of the very beginning, because it's there's a lot of floors, and you can only take so much of it unless you're into punishment. But you did it. You made it through Breath of the Wild. So now it's time. Now it's the time for Breath of the Wild 2 came out, because they were just waiting for John to finish the game, and now you have.
That's exactly it. I'm sorry for the delay, guys. My fault.
Now you got to contact Aonuma and all those people who are working on it and be like, hey, you can put it out now. Even though you said it's coming out next year, you can put it out now. Put it out this year. We know it's done, so go for it. I'm sure you've seen, this was like kind of a recent Breath of the Wild news thing too on that point. Somebody, what was it, Digital Foundry, saying that like going over the footage that was shown, they believe that it couldn't run on the Switch. I mean, people have said that
too, yeah.
People have said that for so many games, though.
Digital Foundry said that?
I think so. It was on their podcast.
They said the volumetric clouds would be impossible on Switch, or highly unlikely.
Well, I mean, but also you have to realize that this is Nintendo. They are the kings of trickery on these systems, and they've been, the system's 5 years old. It's been over 5 years since they started making.
And the hardware itself was already made of components, off-the-shelf components that were years old when it was made.
Right. And look how good Breath of the Wild looked. I mean, that was a Wii U game, upscaled.
That was a Wii U game, yeah. It wasn't even a Switch game. I'm just saying there's a good chance that Nintendo has found ways to make it look better. I don't think it would. I mean, I would be really surprised, when we talked about this before, that it would not be on the Switch. I mean, maybe there is a Switch 2 and it'll be on both systems. I believe that, but I wouldn't believe that they would not put it on, the number one selling system right now. I just wouldn't wouldn't believe that. Like with all the shit they've sold.
That would
Switches,
be
why would
really
they screw
bad for their sales.
Why would they screw everybody over? Like when so many people bought Switches, like why would you do that?
Well, including themselves, because a lot of people just have a Switch Lite. A lot of people just have whatever their launch Switches.
Yeah, and they want to play it on or they bought it expecting to be able to play Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever. So
some people have 3 Switches at their house. It's different. Oh wait, no, you only have 2 now, right? Because you sold.
We did have 3. We did have 3 for a second, but I sold my other one. So we have 2. I mean, actually, I guess technically we have 3 because Conan has one too, but I don't know if he plays it at all, or if it's here, or if it's at his place in Milwaukee or not. I don't know. So we did have maybe 4 Switches, but that's why Switches sell so much, right? Because people can buy multiple Switches, or it's because it's a handheld, so you might need to have multiple ones and all that. But yeah, I'm happy that you were enjoying the Breath of the Wild. Finally, went back to it. It's got to be interesting to play it now, like especially since it's been like 5 years since it launched, and just go back to it and still. I mean, is it still cool? Like, are you still impressed by all that it is?
Yeah, it's still fantastic. I'm still impressed by how the systems all interact and the AI. Like if you throw a bomb at them or whatever, they'll kick it back at you, and it's just very clever. It's a very believable world, and it had me thinking, like, should I have placed it higher in my Switch top 5 list that we did recently? So it did have me thinking about that. Like, maybe had I played it,
where did you put it?
Maybe,
did you put it? You probably put it under Hitman 3, right? Yeah,
I put it at number 3. Yeah, I don't know. I think my top 5 is pretty tight. Like I had Super Mario Maker 2, then Hitman, and then Breath of the Wild. But had I played this, maybe I would have switched Hitman and Breath of the Wild. Or if I could, I would tie them both at 2.
Sure.
Yeah. It is like a fantastic sandbox game.
I mean, do you think in the past week you've had enough of an experience with it that it boosted it to that place, or do you just think you'd forgotten a lot of it? And because really, I mean, you'd already played the meat of the game before this past week.
Yes, yeah. I think I just hadn't played it in so long. Like, Hitman was top of my mind.
Yeah,
when I made that list. So I don't know. I think they're both sandbox games technically, but Zelda is open world and Hitman is you have these closed levels that are like massive games of mousetrap with everything set perfectly. They're very different. So I guess it's just I think you could ask me on different days and get different answers all the time. Do I prefer the wide open, really do anything you want, or the what happens if I hit this trigger and then this happens and that happens? Like, they're two different types of games. So I don't know. I think they're both worthy of number 2 on my list.
Sure. They'll just never be number 1.
Yeah,
or they're both
Mario Maker. Yeah,
both number 1. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you just like playing around with all the different switches and stuff in Hitman 3 on Switch.
Exactly.
Switches on Switch. Cool. Well, yeah, no, I'm glad you're back to playing it, and play around with some of that DLC stuff. I think that
definitely.
I think that motorcycle is a lot of fun. I mean, it is pretty much the Ghost Rider motorcycle, as I talked about it before when we had Smashing Theory on there. The Ghost Rider motorcycle is very much like the Ghost horse from Elden Ring, right? It's not an actual thing. It's like it's a demon cycle that you can summon at any time. It doesn't actually physically exist. Like Ghost Rider never had to park it or anything. It just appears whenever that Ghost Rider thinks of it. So it's like that. You can summon it at will. It'll just appear in front of you, and you can drive somewhere. And it's great. It's like a horse that you'll never lose.
Instead of hay, it eats gas.
And I just like because originally they were really going hardcore into the hardcore sci-fi stuff for Breath of the Wild, and I like the post-apocalyptic stuff. And originally it was going to be more like cyberpunk, not the game, but the actual style, like steampunk, cyberpunk stuff, like with, like cities and stuff like that. And that Switch probably wouldn't have been able to handle that. That's probably where they went more like fields and stuff. But I feel like maybe the cycle is a remnant of that. And maybe originally that was going to be replace the horse and all that. It just, it's like the deleted scene of the movie, it's the DLC. Like, here's the original idea we had was this cycle, and we're just going to bring it in there.
Maybe they'll lean into that for the sequel. Maybe the cyberpunk aesthetic will be there more.
I would love that. I would be super into that. Like, I've been talking about that for a long time. Like,
could you sort of get a peek into like the ancient technology or whatever? Because the Guardians themselves are super cyberpunk. They kind of present them as animated statues or whatever, but they're just a fantasy version of a robot.
Yeah, I would love to see more of that. And I'd love to see the cycle in the second one. And I was really excited when I heard about it, that when the DLC they were going to have the cycle in there. I was like, whoa. I think that was what actually inspired me to get it, was seeing the cycle on there. So had to follow it all the way through. But yeah, cool. Another beat. I think you're winning in the beat category. I haven't really looked, but John's been like knocking them out like every week for the past however many episodes. So
in addition to the folders, it was like, the folders made me beat those other games, but then it was like, okay, I've beaten all these other games, but I still haven't beaten Breath of the Wild. Like, come on, let's do it. So that's why I did it.
Get to it. And you were saying that story about like it raining in the game and raining outside. The first thing I thought of was like, oh God, you can't climb anything. Because I hated the rain so much in that game. That was the thing that I hope they kind of fix, or at least help you get like some anti-rain gloves or something like that. Because that really drove me crazy, because I would just stand around and wait for it to stop raining because I was so annoyed by trying to climb in the rain. And I figured
out the exact pattern. Maybe you guys figured it out too, but it's when he's climbing, he goes climb, 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 jump. And then you'll fall a little bit, but if you reach it, he's reaching his hand up when I say climb, climb, climb. So that's one reach, one reach, one reach. On the third reach, that's when you hit the jump button, and you'll still make progress. So as long as you got a full stamina bar, you can still climb during the rain, but it is super annoying still. And
I have the highest stamina bar I can.
Me too. That was a maxed out stamina bar first.
Yeah, you leaned into that pretty hard. I remember that. Doing all the stamina stuff.
Yeah, on the rain story. So I was playing. This is my first time playing on the new sound system that I have, and I heard rain, and I was like, oh, it's like it's going. It's like it sounds really good. And the game is raining and all that stuff. It's like, wait, that sounds like too good. Like, wow. I was really impressed, and I looked outside, and it started raining exactly at the same moment. in real life as in the game. So that's pretty funny.
Nice. And then you fell off your chair because it was too wet from the rain.
Yep.
You're like, oh, and then you dropped the controller because you can't hold on to anything.
Breath of the Wild. Highly recommend this game to anybody who hasn't played it.
You ever heard of Breath of the Wild? You got a Switch? You should try it out, man. It's a hell of a game. I know nobody ever talked about it ever, but you should definitely check it out. It's it's pretty good still. I thought about playing it again just as the 5-year anniversary and all that, but
I mean, you don't have to play through it, but yeah, I have a file I restarted a year or two ago now, but just to kind of like play it, just like watching a movie you liked again. And I didn't play super far into it, but I got like off the plateau, and I just really enjoy that beginning part. Like it really does feel like a game in itself, just getting off the plateau.
Got off the plateau too, like on my Switch copy. In my new like Switch case that I have, the bigger case, like it has like 18 spots for games, and I never really switched my games over from the other case to that one. But there's only one game that's in there, and that's Breath of the Wild. It's just the Breath of the Wild cartridge that is sitting in that new Switch case. It's just in there in case I decide to play it. I don't know. I mean, I already beat Bowser's Fury, so I don't have that sitting in my Switch. Actually, the physical game that's in there right now is Super Robot Wars, because I hope that someday I'd play it, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But it's just sitting in there, ready to play whenever. But I should put Breath of the Wild in there, maybe give it a try. But I have too much stuff to play and a lot to talk about, so why don't we transition to that and talk about games we've been playing and games we got for the week. Speaking of games that I beat a little game called House of the Dead Remake, which came out in between episodes. I think it came out like right after it came out the next day. Like it didn't come out at night. It's they're always weird about release times and all that. But House of the Dead Remake is officially out now, and I beat it. I beat it in a couple days. It's not very long, but I mean, it's a remake of House of the Dead 1. Like, what do you expect? It's only going to be like an arcade game. But I think it plays pretty well for the most part, all things considered. I mean, it is a Switch game, and I've said before many times, the Switch pointer control is not great. It hasn't been great for any game. I personally don't really care for it, but it was as far as like ones that I've played with pointing, I think it's okay. Like I was able to play through the whole thing. But in the last level of the game, I actually ended up using my 8-bit Do controller and just moving that around and aiming instead of using the Joy-Cons, just because I thought it might be a little more accurate. I don't know. There's a lot of guys where they have like one spot that you can shoot and you have to focus on that one spot, and I felt like it was still kind of moving around. Like maybe it's just me fidgeting or whatever, but yeah, I ended up using that. And I tried to do like some of the analog stick movement, to see if that would make it steadier to shoot it. And I don't know, but I beat the game. Like the great thing about House of the Dead Remake is you don't have to beat the whole game in one sitting, which is great because you have a limited number of continues, so you can't just like free play your whole way through. And it works kind of a little bit like House of the Dead Overkill, where basically it gives you a certain amount of continues, and when you run out of continues, you can use the amount of points that you've gained in the game to buy more continues. But then when you run out of points, you run out of continues and there's a game over. So House of the Dead Overkill did that, where like there was just no continues. Like every time you continued, it would take away from your high score. But if you went to completely zero, you could still keep continuing. You just wouldn't. Your high score would just stay at 0. So, but this one is like once you run out of enough points to buy continues, then you just get a game over. And it shows the pathway that you went, which is pretty cool because there's different ways you can go, and it shows the overhead guy running and all that stuff. And a lot of the voices like sound like that high pitched guy with the wings, the bat guy is in there. The suffer like G did, like that guy, he's in there. He sounds the same. So it's got the same, and it does the same thing like Resident Evil, like I said earlier, where you turn it on and it's like House of the Dead. I kind of miss them doing that in games. Like all the Resident Evils would do that whenever you hit start and it would say the name of the game. Like, why don't they do that anymore? I mean, I know it's fucking silly, but I kind of miss it. Where like, yeah, it'd be like Resident Evil 2 or whatever. Whenever you press start, it would just tell you what it is again. And House of the Dead does that too. Is the voice acting terrible? The voice acting is House of the Dead level. So yeah, it's great. I mean, it's dumb, but it's expected. Like there was one part I recorded it and I was gonna post it on Twitter or send it to you guys, and I didn't do it yet. But like the first boss you run into, there's this lady Sophie that you're trying to rescue or whatever, and you find her, like she gets taken away by the sufferer like G did guy, And you find her later in a room, and she's like on the floor, and she's like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that I saw you." And then this dude just comes in there and just hits her in the head with this hatchet, like the back of a hatchet, and like knocks her across the room into the wall. And it's so brutal. It's just like boom, and she's just like whoosh, and just slides away. Yeah, and that guy's hilarious too, because he's just kind of like he's like moving, and it just looks like he's dancing, like he's just like dancing to you. And he's got like he's got like a suit of armor, but there's like a hole in the armor, and you have to shoot through the hole. But then the armor goes away, and then he's like all muscles, and then you have to shoot all the muscles off of him, and then he's just like a skeleton. And that's a fun boss. So, but I think the game's really fun to play. Like I got it when it was on sale for $20, and I think it was totally worth it. The big thing that the problem with me playing any House of the Dead game is that I'm gonna compare every House of the Dead game to the greatest House of the Dead game of all time, and that is House of the Dead Overkill on the Nintendo Wii, which I played the shit out of that game. And that game is great. It doesn't really hold a candle to that. And the reason that House of the Dead Overkill was so great is that House of the Dead Overkill like emphasized replayability. Like it was really good at that. Whereas like you would get like the idea was to shoot so many times without missing. Like you want to like try to go through a whole thing without hitting without missing, because every time you hit another guy and hit another guy and hit another guy, the combo meter goes like up and up and up, and you get more points, and the game kind of changes also. Like you can get to like, and it'll talk about the brutality of like how you're killing them. Like you get to like I don't know, like massacre mode or whatever. I don't remember the actual names of it, but it changes depending on how much combos you get. And you want to get and the higher scores you get, the more money you make, and the more money you get, the more weapons you can buy. And you can like upgrade your weapons as well. They just added like so much shit to it that you can do. Like you can buy all these extra weapons, you can upgrade all these weapons. So like you wanted to like play through it over and over again and keep getting stuff to build your character and to make it so you could. And I would just play through it with shotguns, so I could kill everybody in one hit. So it was much easier to like keep the combo going and all that. And there was also a lot of hidden stuff that you could get within the levels, which would get you more points as well. And there's a slowdown mode in there also, which is great, where you can just like boom, 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 like knock the guys out and keep the combo and all that, because they're moving super slowly and it goes all black and white and all that. I don't know. This game made me miss Overkill a lot. They should just re-release Overkill. That game's so good. I'd pay $60 for that again.
I don't know. They got to nail down those pointer controls. I would take a peripheral. Just make a peripheral.
Well, you know what? I found some on Amazon. I was just looking around on the internet, and I found a couple gun peripherals for the Switch that you can get. But they're kind of like rifles, so they were made for like the big game hunter games and stuff that are on there. And it's basically like the right control, the right Joy-Con is in the back, and the left Joy-Con is on the top. So like you pull the trigger with the right one, which that's what I was using on House of the Dead, was the right Joy-Con to move around and you shoot them and all that. So you'd have to kind of like hold it like this, and I guess it says like you can play Fortnite with this. I'm like, who plays Fortnite with this? But the cheapest one I could find was $15, and I thought about it for a second, but I'm like, don't do that. Come on, that's dumb. Don't pay $15 for this one game that you want to use it on.
I literally want them just to release a USB light bar.
Oh, you mean like that? Yeah. No, yeah. I was thinking about the light gun stuff, but no. Yeah, sensor bar would be great. That would really help. I know they have the sensor on the back, for the 1-2 switch. Remember we used that for that one game? Like I don't even remember using that, but
well, I remember taking pictures with it with the kit.
Oh yeah, well with the Labo, yeah, because you could use it because it was used in the car. Like when you drove around with the car, it kind of did like a little like heat sensor predator type thing. There's
also an app on the Switch store that you can download where you can use it as a camera. I've never gotten it because it's like $5.
Oh, you have to pay for it. Yeah. That's $5 too much. I mean, that is kind of a lot just to make it into a camera. But yeah, there is a camera on there. So I guess you'd have to like flip the controller, and then you don't have the trigger in the right spot and all that. But I mean, even if you could just aim with the one and maybe shoot with the other hand or something, maybe it'd make it better. But I do really miss the motion. But as far as stuff like that has gone on the Switch, I think it works the best, I guess. I don't know. There's not a whole lot to compare it to. I did have to like reset it a good amount of times, because it'll kind of get, it's just motion. There's no like a control bar to like set it to. So it's always going to be off, you're going to have to reset it. So that's what you have to do. And I was looking through the options, like how to, what the controls were and all that. And it said like if you press left or right on the left stick, you can change weapons. So like I played through the whole game, and I'm like, I didn't find any weapons in here. Like, where are the weapons? So what I found out, and this kind of sucks. Like, this is what kind of like nerfs the replayability that I was talking about Overkill, how you can build up points and buy something after every playthrough. In this one, the only way that you can get to the weapons is you have to play through the first like 4 levels and find all of the doctors or whatever. Like, you have to save everybody in one run, which is fucking impossible. I don't know if you can do it chapter by chapter, because it does let you like restart on each chapter, and that's how I beat the game. You know, if you play like to the second chapter, you could start on the second one or the third or fourth or whatever. And when I beat it, I started on the final chapter, and I just played through it until I beat it. But yeah, you have to find all of the guys, and you have to save all of them. Like, none of them can get attacked by the zombies. And then you get a secret room that enhances your armory or whatever. And once you find the secret room, then you can find the secret weapons that are available in every level. And there's a different weapon for every level. And I guess once you find them once, then you'll have them forever in the game. So, but I tried to like rescue all the guys in the first mission, and I just couldn't do it. There's a part where 2 of them get attacked at once, and I'm just not quick enough to shoot both of them at the same time. I feel like this was something that was in the was in one of the Dreamcast versions of this. Maybe it was House of the Dead 2 that had that, where there was a secret room you had to find, and then you could find different stuff on top of it. Because I think the House of the Dead 2 and 3 that was re-released on Wii, I think the 2 was based on the Dreamcast release. So I remember reading that like years ago, that it had a similar thing in there. Which those games were fun too, but Overkill was much more fun. Because Overkill also had like 12 levels in it or whatever. Like, they made it way bigger. It was like 3 or 4 times the size of House of the Dead 1, for sure. And probably at least twice the size of House of the Dead 2 and 3 combined. And I liked how they had the different posters for each level that all looked like old movies and had the little like credit block on the bottom. And, they all had their own little theme. Like, there was one that was on a train. There's like one that was in a circus. There was like, all these cool different places that you go to. There's like a haunted hospital that you go to, and like a police station. And they just went and did all these really cool locations. Plus, it got really out there. Like, the ending is super mature. They go to places that you wouldn't expect. Like, that was when Nintendo was really shooting for the mature fences on Wii. They're like, we want like the bloodiest, weirdest, most sexual, whatever game on here, and they nailed it. They're like, let's be real weird in this game, and they did. There's like some stuff in there that reminds me of Dead Alive, like very much so, in that same part that I thought was really strange. It's basically straight out of Dead Alive. I'm sure they were pulling from that, but Dead Alive is like one of the bloodiest movies, and they were trying to go.
You get a lawnmower as a weapon?
No, there's no lawnmower, but kind of the similarities between like the main characters and his mother and his zombie mother, like they do stuff with that in Overkill also.
Do they put a baby in a blender?
No, but that baby's not actually in the blender. He jumps out before it starts, so never actually.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, I don't think he actually gets blended. No, he gets in the lawnmower. But no, it's a House of the Dead. It's cool. Like I said, it came out for $25 full price, I think, and I think it's worth that if you wanna play some of the old school House of the Dead stuff. It's just, you got to deal with the Switch pointing, which isn't, I played it on my TV in the living room, which is normally pretty bad as far as pointing goes, but I beat the whole thing out there. So it worked well enough that I could beat the game. And it's campy as hell. Like the voices are ridiculous and the acting's hilarious. And if you play it on like modern score mode or whatever, you can play as G, but G isn't in it if you don't. So I was glad that I found G in there, because you got to play as G. I mean, G's the guy. G's the main character of the game, suffer like G did. Like, how can you not? How can you do that if he's not in there? There's different endings. There's like 3 or 4 different endings. I guess from what I heard is you got to like play through the whole game with like out continuing. I'm like, how the fuck are you supposed to do this? I like died like 5 times in the first level. Like, come on. I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. Maybe when you get the better weapons, you can do that. You can get through it without dying. I guess I got a medium ending because I didn't. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. I don't remember what exactly you have to do. I think you have to like lose all of the doctors or something like that to get the worst ending. But yeah, I got the whatever, the medium ending. But I guess the lady, the Sophie, you can end with her coming back to life or not ever getting killed or whatever. But yeah, no, it's a recommendation for me. I think it's cool for what it is. But speaking of Sega stuff on the Switch, I also got this little game called Slipstream, which was on sale for $9.99. Actually, read a review about it somewhere. I don't remember where. Probably just like Nintendo Life or something. But Slipstream is basically Outrun. It's basically a new version of Outrun. And they do a really good job trying to like recreate the graphics of Outrun, but in an HD way. And it looks really good. Like, I'm actually really impressed with how they did it. And it has like a really cool, like a drifting mechanic in there, where you can kind of like, where you can turn, and there's like, and it does like Outrun, where it kind of creates the idea of 3D-ness with having a bunch of flat things on the side that go past you. Mm-hmm. Kind of like Space Harrier does as well. But it's a super homage to Outrun, and they even the main mode is kind of modeled after the way Outrun is, where Outrun is basically you try to get from point A to point B, but every so many miles you can either go left or right, and your path will change depending on which way you go, and the game has multiple endings, depending on which paths you take, so you can play through it over and over and over again and see all of the endings, because you have to end in a different area depending on how your ending is. That's kind of how this one is too, where like you'll be in a section and you'll play against somebody, you'll race against one person, and they'll kind of talk to you, and there'll be a head floating above their car, and you'll see like the dialogue and all that, and you beat them, and then you get to the next part where they'll tell you like you want to go right or left, and then which way you choose, you fight another person, and then you go to the next thing, and there's left and right. And it's the same as Outrun. You basically have to keep the time going, so you can lose but still go to the next thing, but if you lose, you won't gain the extra points that you would get from beating the person and all that. So it's kind of like its own checkpoint, and you want to get all the way down to the end. And I never made it all the way to the end, but I did make it through like 4 characters maybe. But there's also a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog references in there. Like the levels are called like Green Hills, or like they have like what was it, Emerald Zone? Like they have stuff that's named after actual Sonic levels. The racetracks are, and they also when you pick a level, like, 'cause you can race like level by level, it does that thing like Sonic does, where it has like the zigzag on the side and the zigzag on the bottom, like that comes together. It does that same thing, like at the beginning of every Sonic level. So they're obviously playing on all of the Sega references. And I think I ended up using cold points for it, so I only paid a couple bucks for it. But it was a great game. Like, I was playing it while I was editing last week's podcast, and it was fun. And it does have a good soundtrack on side of that, so I did kind of miss out on that while editing. But no, it's cool. And there's a mode where you can just do like a Grand Prix, where you just race a certain amount of races, and you can do it to where you earn money to upgrade your car and all that. So I always like that sort of RPG light aspect in there. So for every race, you'll get enough money to upgrade your engine and your turning and all that, and you can make your car super psyched out and destroy everybody at the end. I thought that game was really cool as far as like Sega, type games. And there's another one coming out this week as well, the retro game, which John mentioned last week, John Wedgeworth did, that he got it on Steam Deck instead of Switch. Well, probably because it's been out for like 2 years on Steam already, and it's less on there. But it's one that looks like Virtua Racing, which I'll probably end up getting as well. But it's just cool that there's, indie people are leaning into the Sega stuff, especially something like Outrun, which is like one of my favorite racing games ever. So
yeah, the one you just mentioned is called Formula Retro Racing.
Yeah, that one. That's the one that's based on the Virtua Racing. That looks like the old like polygonal like Stunt Race FX type looking thing, except Virtua Racing's much better than Stunt Race FX.
Mm-hmm. The Sega Ages Virtua Racing on the Switch is pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That other game looks like that one, except hopefully it has more tracks, because Virtua Racing only has like 4 tracks. So as great as it plays and it looks, there's only so much you can do with it, because there's not a whole lot of stuff to play. And there's online mode, but I don't think I ever found anybody online on there to play. So, and before I forget, I didn't mention it last week, but the new monthly skin for Mario Golf is Yoshi Easter colors. So Pink Yoshi lives in Mario Golf Super Rush. So got to get on that before the end of April, Jeremy. Get that Pink Yoshi skin so you can play as the Pink Yoster.
I'm thinking about getting Pink Yoshi on my skin.
Like making yourself pink completely?
No, not completely. Yeah, I'm thinking about Pink Yoshi tattoo. It's been popping around my head for a while.
That'd be cool.
It's been a while since I've actually kept an idea in mind this long. So
some Clown Wizard stuff in there too.
Yeah, I definitely want to get the whole band. I think
some sort of reference.
Would you integrate it with your sleeve?
No.
I
want to do it on this other arm that doesn't have anything on it yet.
But yeah, Pink Yoshi, Mario Golf. Drop in there for an hour. You can unlock it. It's real easy. just gotta get your A rank. Get it on there before the end of April. But the main game I've been playing all for this week, of course, is Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. I'm still playing it. I'm almost all the way through it. I made it through the 7th episode last night. I was hoping to get through all 9 of them before I started, but I didn't. I made it 1 through 7. I'm like halfway into 8 right now. I wanted to do a stream of it last night because I thought it'd be funny to see if I could just get some angry Star Wars people on my stream to just tell me how they feel. So I posted on Twitter that I was going to play through the worst trilogy of all the Star Wars, which I believe that's true. but because I was going to play through the sequel trilogy. It's definitely my least favorite. And I was hoping maybe I could do it like when I played Travis Strikes Again, which I didn't like that game, but it was kind of fun because there were people who were there watching me suffer and suffering with me through the game. So they would comment on how bad it was and all that. And I thought maybe somebody would come in and tell me about how dumb I was for liking The Last Jedi or something like that, and it could be funny. But my internet ended up like totally fucking me up last night, and I just could not stream. Like I was streaming for like 7 minutes, and then it would get disconnected, and then I'd do it again. I'd stream for like another 5 minutes, and it'd get disconnected.
I'm telling you, the bots are listening.
It was annoying. No, I put it in my notes.
They love what's her face, Ray.
Well, Twitch. I got nothing against Ray. I'm just saying that. My problem is with J.J. Abrams, the director.
You forgot about Ray.
I think he's a hack. But I posted it on Twitter, and Twitch actually retweeted me, I guess. It said Twitch retweeted me, so maybe they saw it, and they were like, no, you can't make fun of J.J. Abrams. That's what I was thinking. I was like, J.J. Abrams has powerful friends, so he shut me down. didn't want me to post how much I disliked Episode 7 and all that on there. But yeah, I made it through that. You
should change your Switch. You should change your name to Trey Abrams.
No. Want me to become something I hate? No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to live in the world of... That guy sucks. He ruined Star Wars and Star Trek. What a dick.
He's after Star Search next.
Yeah. Well, supposedly he's on a Batman thing, which I'm like, no, just don't let him make anything else. Please. Put him in a corner somewhere. Put him back on TV. Let him make some other TV show that nobody will watch. But no, it's been a lot of fun, and I realized while I was playing it, it's much easier than Kirby because Lego Star Wars, you never die, or you die, but you never. It's possible to get a game over, but I don't care because it's really fun to play through. Like I just love the open worlds of it, and I had the most fun with episodes 1 through 6 because I know those worlds a lot better. And once I got to the worlds of episode 7, I'm like Q-Tar, like what the fuck is that place? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. It's just like they have these really stupid names for everywhere. Like once you get to the Abrams world or whatever, their worlds are so the only one I remember is Jakku, just because it looks exactly like Tatooine. Like it's the only reason I remember it is because it's the exact same fucking planet, except it has like discarded props from previous movies that are stuck on the planet. That's what I said in the stream when it was actually playing. I was like, yeah, this is the land of old Star Wars props. I mean, Ray even puts one on her head and looks at the camera at one point. I'm like, really? This is the movie that people pay for? Okay. But yeah, aside from episode 7, it's been pretty fun. And even though those, even though I didn't like that movie, it's a Lego game, so it's still fun to play through.
I've heard a lot of, because I've listened to a few podcasts that talk about it in passing or whatever, and like, is the open world or whatever you want to call it element, like, is that as fun as people kind of like? Do you feel like you're having fun just goofing off, or do you always sort of feel like it keeps you on collect as many pieces as possible or whatever?
I mean, it's still a Lego game, so it's still like based around collecting the gold bricks, or as they're called in this, Kyber, Kyber bricks or whatever. They're like based after the Kyber crystals from the lightsabers and stuff like that. So you're still looking for the Kyber things, and that's always been a part of it. But that was the fun part. Like that's what I liked doing, like in the Marvel game and the Batman one that I like so much, was just flying around the city and looking for these gold bricks and stuff. But it's cool to be like, it's cool to like be in a level that you know so much about. Like you can go to like Cloud City and run around and you can fuck around. You can shoot whoever you want. Like you can, I killed all sorts of people in that game. You can just run up and shoot somebody, and it's fine, And you can run around Cloud City and like go looking for Kyber bricks and all that. And there's a bunch of cool like extra stuff. Like the idea of this, like most other Lego games, is you play through the whole game regularly, and then you go back in the free play, and then you can play whoever you want. You can play through the whole thing as Darth Vader or Darth Sidious or whatever. And I just need to get through all of the episodes, and I've just been playing episode by episode, but I still kind of fuck around for a while. Like sometimes I won't just go right into the next level. I'll just fuck around on whatever planet I'm on and try to find like as many crystals as I can. And one thing I notice is like every planet that you go to in the outside space orbit, there's a comet that's basically going around the planet that contains 5 Kyber crystals. So if you go out there, you can like build up your Kyber stuff pretty early, and you use these to actually you use it to upgrade your characters, which is cool. So you can and all the characters have classes now. So there's like heroes and Jedi and like dark side and villains and like astromech and the different droids and all that, and and there's like the bounty hunters and the scavengers, whatever. And you can basically you can build up stuff that affects everybody. You can build up stuff that just affects certain characters. And that's really cool. I mean, it's grinding, basically. It's getting these kyber crystals to grind your characters. And I've been having a lot of fun just finding that. And like, you can upgrade your speed. Like, you can make it to where like every time you open a door with R2-D2, you get more like Lego studs and stuff like that for if you want to like build up your money and all that. And you can make it like when you're a bounty hunter, like every time you kill a bounty, you get extra money for it, or you can upgrade like lightsaber damage or like blaster damage, or like when you steal stormtroopers armor, you can make that more strong. And there's a bunch of different stuff you can do in it. So I've been having a lot of fun with it. And you can you can add to your life bar. Like, I have 3 life bars now, which, and it also like it'll heal back quicker. So you can do stuff to upgrade your character.
How do the games affect each other? Like, because you can play any of them at any time, right? Like, you go into whatever episode.
You can only play the first episode of each trilogy.
Okay.
When you start. So you can play episode 1, 4, or 7 to start with.
But once I finish 4, could I go back and play 1, and then I can go play
7, you can play whatever you want.
5. Okay.
Yeah, you can go in whatever order you want to. You
Does
just have
progress carry over in any way in the sense of like, are you bringing your gold stuff from one to another?
Yeah, all your stuff remains the same through all of them. It's not like
it just kind of concurrently stays the same. It's not like only previous games will carry over to wherever you're at currently.
It's like having one save file for all of them. Like, everything stays the same. Like, all the upgrades that you did for whatever episode continues into whatever other episode you go to.
So like, chronologically, if you played episode 7 first, finish that, and then you go back to episode 1, it's like, well, I haven't done any of that stuff yet.
Sure.
But it still carries over. You still have whatever you've gained so far.
Yeah, I mean, you could basically play through episode 7 and take all the kyber crystals that you got and put them all into like Jedi powers, which you don't really have any in episode 7. And then go to episode 1, and your Jedis will be powerful, even though you haven't played as any Jedis yet.
Can you be Jar Jar in episode 4?
Jar Jar's only in episode 1, 2, and 3.
But could I take him to 4 eventually?
I mean, yeah, if you unlock him as a character, sure, you can take him wherever you want. You can play through the whole game as Jar Jar if you really want to. I
just want to get him into that goddamn trash compactor.
You do get to fight the trash compactor monster, and I did have a fun time with that. With shooting the eyeball, the little eyeball that comes out of the trash. That there's some really cool bosses in there. I compared it to Super Star Wars last week, and the Super Star Wars games on Super Nintendo are some of my favorites. But those games, what's so great about those games versus the Lego games is the Super Star Wars games, they take everything and make it into a level. And this game doesn't do that as much. There's like some parts that are skipped that are kind of like, but that could have been a level. Like, why couldn't I do that? Like, when you get to Return of the Jedi, you fight Darth Vader, you fight the Emperor, you throw him down the shaft or whatever. And then Lando blows up the Death Star. You don't get to do it. You don't get to go and blow up the Death Star. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I got to do that in Super Return of the Jedi. Like, why don't I get to fly the Millennium Falcon and blow up the second Death Star? It's like, why was that cut?
Lando?
Like, why did they cut that out there? You can be Lando, yeah, but you can't do that part. You can't do the part where Lando blows up the Death Star in Return of the Jedi. So it's like,
can you betray Han Solo as Lando? Didn't he betray him, and that's why he got arrested, and then that's why he was frozen in Return of the Jedi, or in the Carbonite?
Well, Lando basically made a deal with the Empire to keep them out of Cloud City. And he basically, the deal was that he was going to turn Han Solo over to him when he came to see him. And that's what happened. That's how he betrayed him.
Yeah. I was just asking if you could do that in real time, like sell him off Judas style.
I mean, they do kind of change some of they change some of the stories to make it a little more kid friendly. Like, you don't get to kill the younglings. It's Anakin. I was kind of disappointed by that. You don't get to do that in episode 3. So that's they skip over that part. They go past the youngling killing part. Like, they don't. They
could have made like Jedis come from these special little plants or something, and then you cut all the plants down.
That was a Robot Chicken joke. Is that you going for on that? Where he thinks that all the kids are flowers and Naboo, and he's just trimming flowers. Yeah. It's funny though. Like, they really go places with a lot of the characters, and I've laughed out loud at a lot of it. They do like running jokes. Like, in episode 4, there's the stormtroopers that are like, that you say like these aren't the droids you're looking for. That you do that as Obi-Wan, and you can do that. You can do like force manipulation where you can possess a character and make them go and do stuff for you and make them go kill other characters, whatever. You can do that stuff, which is cool. And like when you get to the Death Star later in Episode 4, you run into those guys that are still talking about. They're like, man, I think those were the droids. Like why did we say that? And they keep talking about the droids and all that. So it's funny like that. They keep the jokes running. I got a kick out of it. And in like Episode 3, like the one where Anakin goes bad and all that. Since him and Padme had just gotten married, she just keeps trying to feed him this wedding cake. Like she has this big giant wedding cake made out of Legos. That's just every time you see her, she has the wedding cake. And when she goes to see him on Mustafar, she like puts it into the ship and like brings it there. And when he like tries to kill her, like she has the wedding cake with her. I thought it was funny that they just kept going with that, with the wedding cake. And he like takes a look at his like character on top of the wedding and almost like comes back to the good side, but he just ends up throwing it at her, and that's what he does instead of choking her. But it's stuff like that. They pretty much like change the story around it.
Make it a little lighter.
My middle name earlier, Sand is for losers. That was a great like sight gag that I saw in the game. When you come back to the Jedi Temple in Episode 3, like after Anakin's turned and he killed all the younglings and all that, even though they don't show that, it basically has graffitied on the wall in crayon. It says "Dark Side rules" and "Sand is for losers." Is what it says on the door when you walk in. And I was like, that's hilarious. And it's only there for a second. And I love those like little tiny things in there where they just like throw a little bit. It's like, Simpsons style, like where there's a little thing in the background that's funny. And apparently there's a lot of references to memes and stuff like that I haven't even seen yet. But I thought it was funny. Like I don't know if we mentioned it last week, but it even got to the point where there's like a voice actor in there from Xenoblade Chronicles that like says the Xenoblade Chronicles line when you run into him and stuff like that. Like they went very meta with it.
Some deep cuts.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, and that's been what I've been playing for the most part. And it's already, it's definitely in my top 10 for the year.
Wow,
this game's great. It's a lot of fun. I wish that, like I said, there is some stuff they skip over, but they got to cover 9 episodes. I understand. Like right when I got to Episode 7, I thought it was going to be the same as the Episode 7 game that I have on Wii U because I bought the Lego Episode 7 game on there because it was on sale. But some of the levels in there, it just completely skips over. Like the whole part where like Finn goes back to the ship or whatever with Poe Dameron, like they skipped all that shit. You just go back there for a second and then you're done. Like that's like 3 levels in the Wii U one. So they skip around on it, but I'm really interested to see how they try to put together Episode 9 because that's like definitely the worst one out of all of them. Like how you're going to put that into a cohesive story that makes sense somehow. Like am I going to be running around trying to find a Force dyad wherever I am? Like it's just like all the plot points of that movie were so dumb that it's going to be, I want to see how they handle it, So we'll see. I'm gonna play it all the way through. So I'll even through Episode 9. We'll see what sort of dumbass planets we go to in that. But yeah, it's gonna be real interesting because some of the stuff just is like, why are we even doing this? But yeah, that's been like my big game of the week, and yeah, I like it a lot. I've just been playing that more than anything else. But something else that happened that I could mention, I guess, on here is I got a job for the week of Midwest Gaming Classic in Milwaukee. So
wow,
I might still be going to Midwest Gaming Classic.
Maybe not in the full capacity, but able to swing by a day or two.
Well, we'll see. It's only 3 days. If I go, I'll only go one day. But I thought about maybe trying to pop in for one day, and maybe not record anything, just go in there and just be a regular person and just look at stuff. But I was like, I'm going to be in Milwaukee now because I'm on another thing that's like where I'll be staying there and all that. And for that time, and I'm like, well, shit. But I don't know my schedule yet. But I was like, maybe I can pop in. For that, for the VIG party or something like that. Because you can just buy a ticket for that and nothing else. Like if I'm out
It'd
late.
be funny if you like had your drink ticket from the old one and went up to that same guy like that told us there were no drink tickets.
Oh yeah,
like I got my drink ticket.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
That guy was burnt out. I wasn't really mad at him, but it's still just hilarious where he was like, "There's no drink tickets." And then like 5 minutes later, they started handing out drink tickets to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy was on something. I don't know.
I think he was just stressed out. It was not managed well, I don't think. I think they were understaffed is rather what I mean to say.
Sure, yeah.
It was managed fine, probably.
Yes, people seemed... I'm sure they were... I don't know. They just didn't want to be there for whatever reason. But, mostly I wanted... If there was some sort of Retronauts meetup or something like that, because the main thing is... I put it on the Slack, but, Nadia from Axe of the Blood God's going to be there. And
cool.
And if I can find some way to talk to her in some way, that would be awesome, because she's great.
I know Parrish is going to be there. Is Bob going to be there?
I didn't see him on the list. I don't think Bob is because he's still
I feel
trying
like
to move to Canada.
He's probably still a little scared to go to Milwaukee and get stuck there.
I think well, from what I've heard through his podcast, he's being super careful because he's trying to move to Canada, and they're very strict about their rules. And even though he's been married for like a year, he still can't move there yet because it takes a long time. But I did want to. I saw Naughty was on the list, and I'm like, fuck, damn it. As I was like, because she lives in Canada. Like, I don't want to be like, this is the only one she comes to, and then she doesn't come back anymore.
I imagine she'd be a hoot at a live panel.
Yeah, no, I wanted to see if like maybe I could at least go to like a Retronauts meetup, or maybe I don't think I'll be able to go to any panels because I'll be working like every day that I'm there. But maybe if I get off earlier, I could try to go to like an after party or something. And I don't know. I mean, the tickets are like forever tickets, so if I bought some and I couldn't go, it wouldn't matter. I could just hold it till next year. That's how they started doing it during the pandemic because they realized that people might not want to buy them if they're only going to be for one thing and that's going to get canceled. So so I did think about that. Like but then I'm like, well, if I bought it and then I don't go, and then next year I want to get a VIG pass and I have like these 2 days that aren't VIG, like what do I do with those? I guess I could wait. I guess they count forever. I could wait till like 5 years from now or whatever and use them.
Maybe they'll give you 2 drink tickets.
Yeah, maybe. But that's cool. So that made me excited that maybe I'll be able to pop in there and see some MGC stuff.
You can be the ambassador, like the very first one you went to.
Yeah. The only problem was I might not be able to make that show that Jess and I were going to go to.
I was going to ask you about that
on that Sunday, but Sunday is our last day. It's our last shooting day, so I don't know how late we'll go. So it might not be. So I might still be able to get back, hopefully. So
is it early evening or late evening? Do you remember?
It's late. It's 8:30. It starts at 8:30. So.
And it's at a pretty small venue.
It's at Talia Hall. I mean, they're not that small.
That's not a small venue.
We were there. We were there for
KKB.
KKB. Who's KKB's coming to the Switch. Jumping ahead, but Bug Snacks coming to Switch.
It's true that.
That's pretty awesome.
We'll be listening to KKB on our Switch, not through YouTube.
Yeah. So, I mean, that gives me kind of maybe a reason to check it out. I don't know. I still don't know anything about the game, and I haven't really heard too much. I guess people, kind of liked it, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this game is so great.
I think it was just really bizarre and charming and kind of stood out in the sort of like, as an exclusive, especially, it stood out in the glut of re-releases of the next generation. So
from the guys who did Octodad, so I'm interested.
Yeah, it's kind of that weird, whatever you would call that. I mean, is it sort of like the same, like, I don't know,
I don't think so.
Ragdoll can't control yourself? Like, I don't think it's like that, but it's like the art style.
I don't think so, but yeah, it's got a wacky style to it for sure, and like all the bugs are made out of food, and they're like hamburgers and stuff, so yeah, that's part of it. Supposedly, it's like got a really lighthearted demeanor, but the underlying plot or whatever is really dark, but what can you expect from nowadays? Everything's got to be dark in some way.
It's got to be dark in its own way, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I got for the week. Why don't we take a break here and we'll come back and talk about other stuff and news.
Hell yeah. Hey, you.
It's me, Mario.
Yeah, you. Subscribe to our Patreon to hear our bonus shows, which happen every month.
I'm tired.
Tired of all the big corporate podcasts spoon-feeding you the same old video game news on every single show?
Spaghetti. Ravioli.
Then expand!
With NintenDomain Expansion Pack.
It's us talking about old games that were important to us. It's us interviewing people that we meet at conventions. And heck, it's live shows from those same conventions. It's basically everything you could want that NintenDomain ever made.
Here we go! And it's just $1 a month.
That's less than a bad indie on the eShop.
It's $12 a year, which is less than Nintendo Switch Online.
Thank you so much for subscribing to our Patreon and supporting NintenDomain.
Just go to patreon.com/NintenDomain podcast and hey, Mario, let go. Whoa! He's throwing us back to the show.
So long, Bowser.
Patreon.com/NintenDomain podcast.
Game over.
How are the rings doing this week?
Well, folks, I have to say this is going to be the last time I talk about Elden Ring.
Uh-oh.
Nope, just kidding. Sorry. I just wanted to give Trey some false hope for a second there.
I don't care. You can talk about Elden Ring as long as you want.
Honestly, we have one of our listeners and friend of the show, Hutch. He kind of gave me some updates on his progress and stuff. So I was going to do that after I talk a little bit about what I've done.
He messaged you directly. I felt so betrayed. No, it's fine. I was just curious as to what he thought about it.
I haven't responded to his message yet, so I figured I'd just respond on the show. Also, when I saw his message, I kind of was like, "Oh shit!" It just had some names on it, but I still was like, "Oh no, was it spoilery?" Which I've changed. My view on that has changed a lot just in the past couple of days. So.
Oh, you didn't recognize the voice, the names that were on there?
I just was thinking I don't know. Like I said, I just had a panic moment where I was like, "Oh no, hopefully no spoilers," but there were no spoilers. Like I said, I glanced at it and then I came back to it today and was actually able to formulate a good kind of idea of where we are in comparison to each other. As of, nearly a week ago when he sent me this message, and he's probably beaten it 3 times by now. But the big thing I did this week was I killed the Sorceress of the Full Moon, who is the second big boss. And her actual name is Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. But man, she's creepy. She's a very, for the most part, very humanoid looking creature. Doesn't really have much of a scary element to her other than her demeanor, which is she's holding this amber egg and it's glowing, and she's talking to it like it's a child and like a baby, and she's kind of having a conversation with it and singing to it singing a lullaby to it. And then surrounding her, because she's the headmaster of the Wizard Academy, which is called Raya Lucaria, which I actually got to and beat. And it's they call it a legacy dungeon. It's basically just, it's a dungeon. And it was a lot of fun. I got all the way through that this week. That was my big thing. But she's the boss at the very end. And she is practicing, I don't know if they call it necromancy. They actually call it reincarnation. Because I talked to the Turtle Pope, by the way. The Turtle Pope filled me in on a bunch of the he's basically just tells you all the gossip about all the all the demigods. He's got all the dirt on them. What he talked about was she's using reincarnation magic, which is frowned upon and pretty much sinful. And she's done that to reincarnate all these students. And they're just dragging themselves along the ground. They've got graduation robes on and the square hats. They've got wands, and they're kind of trying to hit you, but they're super weak. And they're literally they don't have, I don't know if they don't have legs or their legs don't work. Kind of gives you the implication her magic isn't very good. And so she's surrounded by them and she's calling them her babies, and it's really creepy. And so the way you fight her is you basically have to just start slaughtering all the younglings because they are,
at least you can do it in
a
that
way
game.
they're doing they're keeping her shield active. So you kill them until her shield goes down, and then you can attack her. You do that a few times. Then there's a second phase where you fight her one-on-one in this big open arena, which is freaking beautiful. It looked it reminded me of Bayonetta a lot.
Oh,
They're just or even kind of Ganon at the end of Wind Waker, where it's just a big, long, like reflective sheet of water. It's like that. You're like just in water, but behind is just like this huge like vista of the night sky with a huge like full moon up. That's what reminded me of Bayonetta, especially. And she also kind of looks like Bayonetta a little bit. She's like super tall.
She's got glasses.
Really acrobatic. She doesn't have glasses, but she's got a weird Smurf hat. That's kind of weird, but anyway, I beat her. It actually wasn't that hard, and I'd been warned that her battle could be kind of hard, but here we go. I'm over leveled. In fact, I'm at level 92 as of tonight.
What's the limit? Do you know? Like how far you can go?
It just keeps going. I've seen people post screenshots where their levels in the 100. Like I haven't seen anything over 200, I don't think, but I've seen like 150 and stuff. So I think you could just keep going. I don't know if there's necessarily a cap.
What was it? It was that one. What was that one game? Like you had it but didn't play it. Disgaea? Is that what it is? Was it? Six was saying that like Disgaea, you can like get up to level 100 and then you can like switch to a different class and you can like start again and you can just like level forever and it like never ends. Like maybe it's like
I'm getting that impression here to a certain extent. I mean, really what you're doing every time you level up is you're changing one single stat point. And given how far into the game I am and how far into the levels I am, man, it takes a while to get that single stat point. So I was actually really happy that I was able to respec, which going back to what I said at the top of the show, I finally got some respec from this game. After you beat Renala, she doesn't die. She's just still hanging out in the library, or it's actually the debate parlor of the academy, and she uses her golden egg or whatever to rebirth you, aka let you respec. And let me tell you, I'm a lot stronger now because I was like, I put all these things into these stats I didn't understand early on because I didn't know what I was going to do. And now that I'm pretty much locked into my play style, which is like a battle wizard, I think is what Kyle told me it would be called in like other games. I'm a really strong wizard. Like I've got a lot of strength. I can still hit really hard, but I have really good spells. In fact, I've upgraded all my spells. They're all super strong. Like I'm at the next level of all those. I discovered all those and just taken down a lot of enemies really well. And I just started killing everything this week, and it was great. And I just felt especially empowered after finishing the academy, because that's just been hanging out, for hours and hours of gameplay just sitting on the horizon. I'm like, I don't even know how to get in there. Well, I figured it out. I had to check on the internet, but I actually could have figured it out from a note that I found in the game, but who's going to remember that shit? So I went and I snuck behind this giant dragon while it was sleeping, stole this key, and then get in there. So that's how that worked out. Right before you fight her, though, you have to fight like this mini boss who is I can't remember what his name was. You fight actually two mini bosses, but the first one's called the Red Wolf of Radagon. It's basically a wolf with a sword in its mouth, somewhat Omaterasui, but it wants to kill you, and it's giving you bleed damage. But yeah, the mini boss right before Renala was standing in front of the elevator. You have to go up to go fight her, and he kept just killing me, and I'm like, man, he's hard. Like he was really hard. He's super fast. Finally, I was just like, I wonder if I can run to the other side and just go up the elevator, and then I'll fight him later. But if I can get past him without beating him, and just like if there's a side of grace up there, I can just go back to it at my own pace. So I actually got to the other side of him, got in the elevator, went up, and just as I get to the top of the elevator, I hear the familiar sound of when you defeat an enemy or when you die. It's like the sound of like kind of like coins like landing in something. It's a very like satisfying sound. And that guy apparently killed himself. He apparently ran down the elevator shaft trying to chase me down, and I just got all of his runes for free. It was great. And he's gone forever. Like he doesn't respawn. So
oh, weird.
That was pretty fun. I just discovered a little like double dragon type cheat on accident. But anyway, yeah, at this point I'm ready to move towards the end game, and I don't know what pace I'm going to take with that, but once you have the two they're the great rune carriers, once you've defeated two of those, you can like finish. But there's still a couple I could fight if I just wanted to like be a completionist. But other than that, I'm to the capital. I got the two halves of the Dectus disc, and it's basically like a Resident Evil puzzle. You have to have the two halves of the big circle, and then you form the you form the circle that allows you to take this elevator up to a whole new area where the capital, and that's also where the next big boss is in the capital. So that's where I am right now, and I'm still having a blast. I'm still going to give it a little bit more time to decide how I feel in relation to other games if I was going to rank this game. It's going to be hard at the end of the year when I'm making my Switch list and having to omit this game, I think.
I mean, you could always just I don't know, shadow number one it and just say oh, my number one game was Elden Ring, but Nintendo games are this, I mean, we kind of did that the first year. We did that for the first year with the Switch with Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, where we kind of just cut it out of the list because that was going to be everybody's number one. So we wanted to make it more interesting by cutting it out of the list. And then we did that again with Smash Brothers, I did it with Smash Brothers because I thought it would be number one, which I don't know why. But then it wasn't number one for either of you, so it didn't even matter. But we did that. We did that first year. But you can always say hey, this is my favorite game. But Nintendo wise, there's these ones, and then you don't have to worry about it.
One thing worth saying, I think this is the first time a game's ever caused this for me in my real life. I patronized a podcast just because they have specifically an Elden Ring show.
Oh, really?
It's I didn't even realize it, but it's Watch Out for Fireballs. So yeah, I'm a patron of Watch Out for Fireballs now.
I've never heard their show. I don't know.
They have a show. Well, no, they've been at MGC before.
We met them, because they did the same thing with Retronauts, which I remember what's his name? One of them kind of gave me a remark.
Chris
about
Butterfield is one of them.
I remember I was because we went to that arcade bar and I was like, I'm here for the Retronauts thing, and he's like, oh well, it's actually for Watch Out for Fireballs also, and I'm like, okay, cool. Where's Jeremy Parrish at? It was. I felt like he was he was mad at me that I didn't say that. But I'm like, I never heard anybody say that. I just listened to the Retronauts say that was that.
I will say their podcast is especially about Elden Ring, it's very much feels like listening to an NPR kind of podcast. They're really soft voiced. They make a lot of affirmative kind of sounds, what people do when they're kind of trying to convey auditorily that they're listening to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly. there's a lot of that, but whatever. I think that's just their format. Maybe they have a background of professional radio or something. But
I try to cut out myself doing that because I do it sometimes, but I hate it.
Sometimes it's good.
You don't need to really say yeah or whatever. I cut it out a lot of this podcast actually. Of you saying something, me saying yeah. I'm like, nobody needs to know that I said yeah there. It's not important. Just
find a place where you say no, and I just make you disagree with everything I say, and then I'm like, yeah, he's a jerk. But I'm not trying to talk shit about it. I'm their patron. Come on. Maybe I feel a little justified in that. But no, their podcast is called Bonfire Side Chat, so I'll plug it. And it's rooted in just Souls-like games. I think they've done this series for a while, and they decided to put it behind the paywall, I think, finally, because they know they'll get the listenership with Elden Ring, which they're right. But they do a really good holistic job of presenting it as it comes and really digging into the lore. And it's enriched my gameplay of this game listening to that. So shout out to them. I'm your patron. You won me over.
There you go.
So yeah, that's the big thing I did. But I did want to say the reason I mentioned Godskin Duo, or not Godskin Duo, Godskin Peeler, is it's a weapon I got, which I can't really use. I don't think my character class can use it, but that's it's called the Godskin Peeler, and that's just one of the most metal names for a weapon I've ever heard in my life.
It's got to be one of the most powerful weapons, right? That's what it kind of sounds like the ultimate nullifier or whatever.
I did see. I think it's one of the. I can't remember what the term is, but when you start to see something you just learned about all over the place, I don't know. There's a phrase for that, but I heard both on Bonfire Side Chat they mentioned the Godskin Peeler, and I thought they were just joking. I thought they were just making it up, as just. And then a couple days later, I saw Nadia comment on Twitter about her build, saying that was her weapon she was using. I'm like, oh, that's actually a real thing. And then then I got it today, and I'm like, okay, that's a real thing. There's really a weapon called Godskin Peeler, and it sounds like the most badass thing to make mashed potatoes with that ever existed.
The Godskin Peeler. Yeah, I'm sure Elden Ring's made a lot of money off of this game, but there's another product you could do. Make a mashed potato, make a vegetable peeler called the Godskin Peeler that's Elden Ring themed. And it's
we
just
can handle the most godlike vegetable skins.
Well, I could see that. People were making cooking books based on recipes from Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. So
that's true.
maybe there will be an actual Godskin peeler made by a
maybe
fan.
you could make like a real Godskin peeler and do a YouTube. I don't know, whatever. Who knows? But anyway, I wanted to make sure I addressed why I said that, because I thought, they're like a member of the Church of the Godskin or something like that. There's this whole like.
I hope they have like a
going
Godskin.
on.
Like I hope they have Godskin on the walls when you walk in there.
Yeah,
it's like those those churches that have like I don't know. I would
very Lovecraftian.
They have like scrolls or whatever on the wall, like something like that, but like god skins. Like here's the skins of the gods that we found. Put them over here.
But yeah, I don't know. What else can I say? This game's great. I'm still having a great time with it. It doesn't always run great on my computer, but when it is running well and I'm able to get into my element and just kind of like focus, it's great. I've got my own little loop of like, if I lose a bunch of runes, I force myself to go grind until I get them back. And so I don't ever feel like I've lost anything anymore. Like at this point in the game, like I can make up for anything I lose. I'm not dumb enough to let myself accumulate all this stuff and lose it. Like it just won't happen. So that whole element of what scared me about Souls-like games is just completely gone. And I'm just having a great time with it and trying to like learn a bit more about the lore as I go. And yeah, it's great. And all the summons, I've gotten a bunch of new summons and a bunch of new spells, and I'm just having a great time. So yeah, you'll hear more about it. But I did want to read what Hutch sent me, because I just read it today. I read it a second time today, and I have a better idea now that I have a list of the name of the characters in front of me. But he said, heard this week's pod, and I still think you're higher level than myself. Yes, I probably am higher level than you, Hutch, but that doesn't mean anything in this game. Just wanted to say, make sure you power up and equip Godric's rune, which I did. As for where I am, I completed the next 2 main bosses after him, which means, yeah, he's already a boss ahead of me as of a week ago. So he's already ahead of me. He says he only gets to play 1 day a week, so I don't even know how he does this. But yeah, he said, as for where I am, I completed the next 2 main bosses after him. The next allows you to respec, which, like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't know that I was going to get to respec after her. That was a lovely little surprise. Afterwards, and then Rodan, which I think he's referring to, he says Rodan, but I think he's referring to Scar Scourge, Radon, spelled a little differently. That's what I was talking about last week, where he's giant. He's basically just a zombie eaten from the inside. You have to revive a bunch of extra people to fight with you because he's so tough. And yeah, I still haven't beaten him, but apparently Hutch beat him a week ago. And then let's see what else. That allows you to respec. After powering up his rune, I need to gain levels, as she was a cakewalk compared to him. Yeah, I bet. I found a sword that doubles as a staff, but these bosses hit so hard, I need better spirit ashes. They're easy to find once you just like open up the map. Getting to dive into this game only once a week has me hoping it does eventually come to Switch, even if it's a new model. By the way, I've been bitten by the Elden Ring bug so hard, I gave in and got Dark Souls remastered.
I saw that.
Loving it and never thinking I would. Don't want you to think you're alone in your Elden Trek. Then basically he offered to play multiplayer with me if we can figure out a way to make that work, which I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to know that there's someone out there I can talk to about Elden Ring. So thanks, Hutch. Thanks for reaching out.
Well,
you're ahead of me. Still, you're still ahead of me. You were ahead of me when you messaged me, but also, I don't know. In terms of an open world game like this, maybe I have opened more of the map up. Maybe I've done more side quests and stuff. I don't know, but yeah, this game's great. So I don't know. I don't want to bore you guys talking too much about it. It's really all I've played, and my Switch has been sleeping. It's still in this place I put it last week during the podcast. I have not touched my Switch this week, and I feel bad about it, but I also am kind of excited to jump back in because I'll have some stuff to catch up on when I do. I'm
just wondering. My question is, what will be the game that brings you back to Switch? I mean, I hope that at least it'll be. I'm hoping that at least you'll play Sunbreak with me when that comes out. But
that's Dark Souls.
But that's not till June.
What's Sunbreak? I already forgot.
The Monster Hunter, the new Monster.
Oh,
Hunter
right. That will probably be part of it.
I mean, as far as like recent stuff, or like stuff that's like kind of around the corner, Sunbreak is like a big one for me that I'm looking forward to. Even though I need to make sure that I'm at whatever level I need to be at to play it in the regular Monster Hunter, but I am really looking forward to it.
I think that I'll be done with this game kind of soon. And maybe I won't have gotten like the best ending, or maybe I won't even have seen credits just yet. But I'm already kind of at a point where like I said, I've kind of changed my mind. I'm looking at stuff online. I'm kind of like trying to be a little more organized in how I'm going to approach the last parts of the game. And luck would have it, I already kind of was doing that. Like I already was in the right place that I needed to be next. So I'm just going to kind of focus on seeing how many of these bosses I can get through this week, especially. And who knows, I might see credits this week. I doubt it, but there's a path of completion laid out in front of me as of now.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, I'm sure we'll find out at some point, but I'm curious how well Dark Souls is in comparison to the Switch. I mean,
I'm definitely going to
go back to not quite the first one, but
I haven't decided if I'm going to do that or if I'm going to do Bloodborne. It's one or the other that I'm going to do. I already wrote off Sekiro. Like I'm not going to worry about that anytime soon. So yeah, it'll either be Dark Souls 1 or the remastered version, or I am going to do Bloodborne on the PS4, or maybe on PC if it's cheaper.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I don't know what... I mean, that game's been out for a long time. It can't be that expensive now. I mean, it's been out... Like, I feel
it
like
was a launch title for the PS4.
Yeah, it was like beginning of... It was like the first thing that wasn't a re-release of a PS3 game, I think, on the PS4.
It's 7 or 8 years old, I think.
So it's pretty old.
It's been around for a while.
It's got to be... They got to be selling it for $20 or something. I don't know.
Dark Souls 3 came out since that one, and then the remake of Demon Souls was a launch on the PS5. So more has happened other than Elden Ring since Bloodborne came out.
I was going to say, a friend of the show, guest from last week, John Wedgeworth, he just got his Steam Deck today. I saw pictures of
he was
on the internet.
Last week. So
and he bought Elden Ring before he got the Steam Deck. So he was going to be somebody who you can talk to about Elden Ring, even though he's just starting it. But he did buy it to play on his Steam Deck. He said that was the big game that he got for
I would be quite interested in how that's going to run
on
Steam Deck.
Yeah, me too. But that's he said that's his big purchase is Elden Ring.
So that would just make it even more Breath of the Wild adjacent, which
I think that's what he was trying to go for, actually, because Breath of the Wild is a big deal. Well, for everybody.
The big thing missing from
Switch, but
I will say, going back from time to time, thinking about comparing this to Breath of the Wild, which I've done a lot. One thing I'll say that I really miss is the physics-based stuff. That's not in this. You don't get that. It's all magical, and it kind of exists as a representation of the stats, So,
but you can't
whereas Zelda actually was you could make these chain reaction type things occur. That's not going to happen in this game.
But you can't really break because I remember one temple or whatever they were called, the shrines in Breath of the Wild, where I laid 10 different swords next to each other to conduct a thing of electricity from one thing to another side of the room, and I've never been able to do that in any other game. It was I don't think you could do stuff like that. I just couldn't believe that you could, and I didn't think that was the way that you would complete whatever the puzzle was. But I was just that's fucking amazing that I can just lay out whatever swords that I have on the ground and just make this conduct to this other thing to activate this switch to get me this thing. That I was obviously not the right way to do it, but it's cool that you can do that. It's just the amount of options you had was really cool, where you could just do things in so many different ways. I like that.
Though it's an open world, I would probably not call it a sandbox. It's not customizable at all as far as the actual appearance of the world. The only thing you have control over appearance wise is your character. So I don't know if you would call it a sandbox for that reason.
I mean,
but you can cheese things like I just talked about earlier. That boss that just died. I also had another boss I beat. The guy I got the Godskin peeler from. I was able to climb on top of a rock and just keep hitting him on top of his head with a spell, and he couldn't reach me. It's super cheap, but whatever, it worked.
I mean, I think that's the only time I beat a boss on Demon Souls was just throwing arrows, shooting arrows at him very slowly, far enough away that he couldn't reach me, and just doing that until they died. But I mean, I think that's what a lot of people have been saying about Elden Ring, is that it's definitely the easiest of all of these games because of the cheese stuff. But they all kind of have that.
It also has that Breath of the Wild thing where if something's frustrating you, you can go do something else. There's always somewhere else to go, something else to do. And,
that's also different, apparently.
And you're always kind of giving yourself that dopamine hit of unlocking new sites of grace that are just like the towers in Breath of the Wild. And, unlocking more of the map is very satisfying, and it just keeps zooming out. I mean, I feel like that's been said a lot by anybody that's played this game. But yeah, the map keeps zooming out, and I just keep being damn it. It's so big.
It keeps going and going and going. Yeah. Well, let's cut to the news.
News. Don't snooze or you miss the news.
And here's some games that maybe will turn you back to your Switch that are coming out this week. Maybe not, but there are some really good games coming out this week on the Switch that I wanted to highlight. Number one, there's a little game called Gotta Protectors, Card of Darkness, which, speaking of Patreon stuff, 8-4-Play, the podcast I've been listening to for, I don't know, the past definitely 5 or 6 years. I was listening to them before this podcast ever existed, so it's been at least as long as the NintenDomain time. And this podcast is heavily influenced by 8-4 because they, kind of the structure's the same. Anyway, they made a game called Gotta Protectors, and they've been joking about having a Patreon forever. I don't know if it's an actual joke or not. They never actually got a Patreon, but now I can give them money in a way and buy this Gotta Protectors game that's on Switch, which is only $14.99. I'm not really sure what the game is. It just looks like ridiculous. I guess it's kind of like a tower defense action 8-bit looking game or whatever, but it looks better. But apparently it's good and it's really intense. I don't know. They're going to do a whole episode about it next week, so I'll probably just listen to them talk about it and then play it. But yeah, they made it, which is cool. So I've actually been looking forward to it, and all of a sudden it just showed up on the release list for this week, and I'm like, oh shit. And there's the regular version is $14.99, and there's a deluxe version with extra stuff in it and all that. But the trailer's pretty funny. I posted it on Slack. I don't know if you guys watched it or not, but it's on the Switch eShop as well. But it's kind of funny how they go through it and talk about the game, and they use, it's very much made by somebody who was raised by 8-bit NES games and all that, because there's glitches that are part of the game that go into the gameplay mechanics and all that stuff, and that would look like when you put the cartridge in but it doesn't quite load right, and it kind of sort of glitches out. Which, speaking of cartridges, actually I forgot to mention this in my earlier stuff, but my upstairs neighbor who's lived in this apartment the same amount of time as I have, except an extra month, moved out, which made me really sad because we were the elders of the apartment. But Jason left last week. But when he left me a case of NES games that he had.
Really?
So he gave me some.
That's awesome.
He gave me his Nintendo games that he had. So his 8-bit games. He asked me. He's like, "Do you want my 8-bit games?" And I'm like, "Sure." And
in good hands.
A lot of them were stuff that I already had. He gave me Zelda 2. I already had that one. One of them was Days of Thunder. Never played that game, so I played that a little bit. It's like a racing game, but it's kind of 3D, sort of it's on the curve, when you're going around the whatever. I played around with a little bit, but another one was he gave me Mario 2, and I guess I never had Mario 2, so I hooked it up.
You never had Mario 2?
Well, I mean, I never bought it. I was never. I told you before, I was never a Mario person until post Mario 64. Mario 64 is the game that turned me around, weirdly enough. But
I have 4 of them.
I hated. I just didn't like Mario 1. I told you my sisters were mean to me. They'd pause it when I was in the air and make me die and all that stuff. I don't like that game. But I remember renting it, and my oldest sister, she played it until the Nintendo overheated and stopped working for a day or two. I remember that. But no, I never actually owned it. I didn't think I owned it. Anyway, I couldn't find a copy of Mario 2 that I had, but I have it now. But yeah, he gave me.
What if I make a list of all my doubles and you make a list of your doubles? Maybe we can do some trades.
Sure. Another one he gave me was ice hockey, which I didn't have a cartridge of that, and that's a classic one. I know that's one of John's favorites.
Love it.
We played it on the NES thing, but it was cool. It was cool. He gave me it was one of those leather cases. It really destroyed, really beat up and all that. But that old NES case, Conan actually gave me one too, of games. And Mega Man 2 was in there. I didn't have a Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 is actually still going for $60 in the cart by itself. So that's a big one. So I just wanted to say thanks for throwing me those games, Jason. That was really cool. He basically left it in front of my door after he left. Just left me a little thing of games there. I was like, oh, that's nice. I'm sad you left, but thanks for sending me some games. So yeah, so it was cool. So I played. So I boot up the old NES with the blinking light win and all that, and everything still works great on it, and it's cool. It's nice to play some games. Like I said, set up for Jess. Jess got to play it a little bit. So they enjoyed playing it on an old TV, and how I was like, you like how fast it was, right? Hey, you don't have to go through menus, and everything's so much brighter and all that.
Do you have Lolo?
I don't think I have Lolo. We can talk about it through Slack and all that, but yeah, I do have there's a few extras that I have in a case that I have doubles of. But yeah, no, there were some games that I didn't have, but it was still cool to get a gift of NES games. I appreciate
Jeopardy.
that.
I have 2 copies of Jeopardy.
Double Jeopardy?
I thought I had Jeopardy. I thought I had the Jeopardy on NES. I know I have the Super Nintendo one, or I thought I did. I don't know. Because I was collecting those for a while. But yeah, the NES stuff. Also, another game that I'm super interested in playing, and actually a friend of the show is reviewing it, I think, for Nintendo World Report. But Nobody Saves the World is coming to Switch this week. And Nobody Saves the World was already on a whole lot of Game of the Year lists for people. And it's a super quirky RPG thing where I guess you're nobody, and you're a character that turns into other characters as you go through the game, from what I understand. I know it's already on friend of the show Janet's Game of the Year list. And I've been really, it was like one of the first ones I heard about this year that was like, oh shit, this game's really good. That was like the first time. And I figured there was going to be some time before it made it to Switch, and now it's coming out to Switch this week. So I'm like, shit. And it's another it's like, what is it? Like, I didn't put the price down, but it's like another like $14.99, I think, maybe $20, but it's not expensive, So I'm like, oh shit, I should maybe check out that one for sure, because a lot of people have been really talking about it. But then it's also like I said I made the pact that I wouldn't get another RPG until I beat an RPG, and I was like, does this still count even though it's an indie RPG? I don't know. I might have to play some mental gymnastics with that to.
I think you can do whatever you
to
want when it comes to indie games. Like if you're going to buy an indie game, just do it. I think that should be the rule because they need the support.
Yeah, I want to play it just because, like I said, it's been a lot of people have been talking about it being a game of the year indie RPG thing, and I'm definitely always interested in weird RPG ideas. So cool. Also, we talked about it earlier, but Formula Retro Racing as well is coming out this week for $14.99. As they say on the internet or on YouTube for some channels, it's a wallet-breaking week. There's a lot of really good stuff coming out this week. We talked about Slipstream already. Well, that came out last week. 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. That's supposed to be really good. It's made by the same guys who did Muramasa, the Demon Blade. So it has that same beautiful artwork and all that stuff. What's the developer name on that? I should know it. Vanillaware. That's what it is. It's a Vanillaware game that they're known for having incredibly beautiful. Really, really beautiful hand-drawn sprites. Also, very beautiful food that you see in there that you eat. And apparently, Aegis Rim is a really good point-and-click visual novel mixed with mechs, strategy stuff in there. I heard it's great. It's coming out for $60. I'm not going to throw $60 down to it right now, but if it's on sale, I'll check it out. I hear people are loving it on Switch. They're saying it's it was ported really well and it looks great. So there's that. And also, don't forget, this is a big one that I might be interested in getting if it's reviewed well enough. But Bush Hockey League is coming out this week, and it's cheap. It's coming out for $16 for $15.99. It's coming out on the 14th. And Bush Hockey League is that game that looks very much like Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey. For anybody who remembers that, and all the mini versions that came out of that for the 64. I think there was 3 of them, right? And they were all kind of the same game with different different rosters or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not really a sports person, but I would give it a try if it's like that.
Neither am I, but Wayne Gretzky, that was a great game. A lot of great memories with that one.
But you like hockey games though, John. You love ice hockey, you love Super Blood hockey, I love soccer
Blaze
games
of
too.
Steel.
So you do like some sports games, and I don't
like sports, but I like sports games.
But you like hockey games. I'm saying you do like hockey games though. So
Yeah, hockey and soccer.
Yeah, and speaking of that, apparently the Switch Sports has been sent around to all of the main video game coverage people and all that, and not a friend of the show, but somebody that I know 2 of us listen to on the regular. Got to do a preview of it. Kat Bailey from Axe of the Blood God did a whole thing about Switch Sports, and she even kicked her shoe off and hit a TV, which was in the video with the Nintendo spokesperson and all that. I thought that was funny. But
is that on IGN?
Yeah. I posted on the Slack. She wrote an article about it also, if you want to read it. But Switch Sports is actually coming out in a couple weeks. It's right around the corner. It's going to be out not next week, but the week after, I think.
Just in time for us to actually go outside and play sports.
Yeah. Well, I'm still, I don't know. I'm still kind of divided on that game. It's I'm going to have a great time with bowling, obviously, because bowling's going to be great. But it's I don't know. It's does it have enough?
Well, it could be bad.
It's does it? Well, I mean, what I've heard is from everybody saying bowling is just as fun as it was before. Okay. And we get to play.
I really like bowling.
We get to play it also. John played it, I played it. We played it when they did the test run.
That's right. I didn't get to do that.
So we did get to demo it a little bit, and John played the online mode, which I wish I had a little bit more time with that because I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm really interested in what the staying power is with the online stuff. But
I think it's going to be really strong.
Yeah. But the thing is, the only thing I'm really excited about is bowling out of all the games. Like, I don't really care about
You
soccer.
like golf games, though.
I do, but golf isn't going to come out until later. That's the problem. Golf isn't coming out until like fall, right? So
Yeah.
So I would basically just be buying it for bowling, and it's kind of like
For now.
Wii Sports was easy because Wii Sports came with the system, and then Wii Sports Resort came with came with a controller also, or came with the the Motion Plus. And plus Wii Sports Resort was more. There was like archery and like skydiving and all this other weird shit in there that I thought was fun, So, but as far as the games that are in, like I don't care about volleyball. Like I don't really care about. I thought even Chambaro was kind of like whatever. I couldn't even really get into that. Like the only thing I really liked was bowling. So it's like
I think it's going to be enticing enough to have pick up and play bowling with 15 other people whenever you want.
Yeah,
and it's probably the first. It's the first game since Animal Crossing that I would buy just digital as far as Nintendo first party, just because it's the kind of thing that you want it on your system all the time. Or I don't see myself putting a cartridge in, taking that extract every time to just play these little mini games for a couple minutes. But I think the possibility of pick up and play, soccer and eventually golf and all these different things with random people online, that's fantastic.
But if you buy it physically, you'll get that metal water container from Walmart. So I know you really want that.
That's true.
I saw that was a new like pre-order thing. You get this metal water, which is probably like this. It's probably like tiny. It's probably like this tiny, like half size of a water bottle. But you get a metal Switch Sports water bottle. No, I think the bowling aspect's going to be fun of it. I'm just like wondering how much fun I'm going to have from badminton and tennis, and definitely. I mean,
tennis is fun too.
Soccer really looks like they're trying to pull from, like they're trying to pull a lot from Rocket League, but I don't know if it's like it's going to have the appeal and all that. It reminds me a lot of Rocket League just looking at it, but I don't think it's as fast, or I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming around. I mean, we're in the time right now where games are just popping off like crazy, so I might end up not getting it for a minute, or maybe get something else. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it is in a couple weeks when we get to that. But yeah, that's one that's right around the corner. This weekend, was it last weekend? There was a big Star Trek convention in Chicago, which I really wanted to go to, but it was like $65 a day, and I couldn't justify doing that. But I wanted to try to go there, like Jess and I could go for like a day or something. But a bunch of shit happened. Actually, a friend of the show, Marielle, was there from Third Course Review. She's been writing a bunch of stuff up on it, which I've been checking out, which is really cool. But they announced a new Star Trek game for the Switch there, because I think they're trying to make it kind of be like the Star Wars Celebration that happens in Chicago, but like this is Star Trek Mission, and we're going to do a bunch of Star Trek announcements and stuff like that. I know they had panels for all the different shows and all that. And they also announced Star Trek Prodigy Supernova. And Star Trek Prodigy is actually a show that I really liked. It's a new like CGI animated show. Kind of looks a little bit like the Star Wars Clone Wars Rebels stuff did, but it's basically like it's a Star Trek show for kids who don't know anything about Star Trek. So it's basically trying to explain Star Trek to you, and I thought that was a really cool idea.
Nickelodeon, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's on Paramount Plus actually. I've been watching it on Paramount Plus. But it is going to be on Nickelodeon later. I don't think it's actually been on Nickelodeon yet, technically. I think it's only exclusive to Paramount Plus. But it's basically this this ragtag group of characters, and they're all like alien species, and they basically discover like an Enterprise style ship that has a hologram of Janeway on there, who basically Janeway explains to them the way like a Starfleet would react, and they learn about Star Trek through this like stolen ship that they got from this mine. Is it
mining. Voiced by Jane or by Kate Mulgrew?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, of course it is. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, it has all the actual voices. They did an episode where there was like a Kobashi Maru like training mission where they actually brought all these characters from previous Star Trek shows onto it, and they were all made.
Dolph?
A lot of them were dead. Like it was like they did like Spock and Odo and Nichelle Nichols. She's not dead, but I know she's not healthy right now. But they brought a lot of these people who had already died, and they actually used audio from the previous shows to like mix together to create new dialogue for them, which I thought was really, really cool. So they've done a lot of great stuff on that show. But anyway, there's going to be I don't know anything about the game, but they just announced that there will be a game on Switch that has to do with Star Trek Prodigy, and that's cool because I really enjoyed that show.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Because I really liked the below decks one was really cool. The stuff I watched from that.
Oh, Lower
liked
Decks.
that.
I think Lower Decks is the best new show they've done so far. Like Lower Decks is so good. Like Jess and I loved it. Like I think as far as like the new Paramount Plus Star Trek stuff, I think Lower Decks has been the best. So
I've enjoyed what I've seen of it.
yeah, it's really good. Like they have a lot of good like deep cut stuff like in there, and like I saw like the whole cast was there. Like Jack Quaid was there, and he was wearing a wig, like a blue wig that looked like his character that had like the big swoop up and all that. Like and they were wearing their uniforms from the show, like on the panel and all that. So they're super into it. So that's cool.
.mu has begun a series of behind-the-scenes videos for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge. Did you guys watch that video?
I didn't see it. I didn't watch it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know if there's anything new. There's no release date still for this game, and all the comments on the video were like, "When are you going to talk about the release date?"
It is kind of weird to post more videos, but nothing about a release date. I guess that to me, that's making me think that it's not coming out this year. But hasn't it been? I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, but I feel like they've been working on it for a while. And maybe now that there's the Cowabunga collection, they don't want to like release it too close to that because Cowabunga collection has like 12 games in it versus like one game. So maybe they just don't want to be at the same time because they'll be like, why do I need this new Turtles game? I got all these old ones that I loved as a kid, like why don't I just get these,
And I think that one's coming out June 24th, sometime in June. So yeah, I don't think this Turtles game is coming out till later in the year. Maybe they were just being coy about the release date because they knew about the other Turtles game. Two competing companies, whatever. Maybe they're playing chicken with the release date or something. And so now they know the release date of the other game, and I expect to hear a release date pretty soon. Maybe it'll be at this is a series of videos they're doing. They called this number 1, so maybe the last video will finally hear the release date. It didn't really give it too much new information. It was just kind of showing some footage, and then it was 2 of the developers talking about their inspiration, how they were happy about making this based on the original cartoon show, how that drove them. So yeah, it's worth the watch. But again, what a tease. I just want to know the release date, guys. Let me know. So
yeah, it looks great. But yeah, I don't know why they're waiting on that release date.
Well, Sonic 2 has become the all-time earned the all-time best opening weekend for a video game movie.
Really?
$71 million. Yep.
Really? Over Detective Pikachu?
Yep.
This is a bit of a Animal Crossing, maybe not completely, but don't you kind of get a feeling like this is a little bit of a they're kind of benefiting off of the fact that
about the state of the
movie
world
releases aren't as much of a thing. Yeah,
how things are more open, I guess, than they
now that a lot of the mask mandates have been lifted, and now there's this big it would normally have came out in the summer, I would think, but here we go.
Well, I was just thinking. I was just thinking about Sonic the Hedgehog 2 stuff because you hear about it talked on various podcasts and all that. I really don't care. I watched the first one; they had me for that one, but the second one, I really don't care. I'll
see when it comes out in video.
I mean, maybe I'll watch it when it's free on something, but I'm not even really excited about that. Even I just don't care. But I was thinking about the way I feel about Sonic now versus before. When Sonic 1 came out, I was all excited. I was buying all these Sonic games that were on sale and all that stuff. And this one came out, and I'm just like, I don't care. It's whatever.
I returned
to Olive Garden.
I didn't go to Olive Garden the other time. Olive Garden's trash. I wouldn't go there. Free, endless breadsticks or not. I can't even really eat Italian anyway. Not even bad Italian.
Anybody interested in a Chuck E. Cheese movie?
Oh wait, hold on. We got to say one more thing about Sonic 2 though. We just have to rant for a second. So the director, worst idea of all time. The director said that he was interested in making a Super Smash Brothers movie. That's going to have a lot more. I think you made this joke, John, but it's going to have a lot more characters once they work in all of the human characters that have to fit in with each of the Nintendo characters, right? It's going to be 165 person cast or something like that in the end.
Everybody needs their Tom.
Yeah,
it's going to be its own universe. Yeah,
I think that's the worst idea of all time. Please don't do that. Don't. It's not going to happen. But leave Smash
all
Brothers.
The human counterparts.
Leave Smash Brothers alone, please.
Finally.
I don't want to see a movie of that. The closest thing, hopefully, the closest thing we ever saw of a Super Smash Brothers movie was the World of Light or whatever single player thing, that opening cutscene that we saw.
The only way I want to see a Smash Brothers movie if it's made in the style of DBZ or something. I want a very
You want really long fights
Yeah.
that go like entire movies based on one fight.
Well, I mean, it's sort of more the action of it, unless the drama. But
I don't see how you would find a story in that. Like, really, I mean,
I just want
unless
to actually see Luigi get killed. I want to see Kirby get dropped off of the edge of a cliff and fly back up.
yeah. I mean, well, they would have to like make a successful Mario movie, which that's
And then
still up
kill
for
Luigi.
debate, and then just keep creating all of these other Nintendo property movies, and then we'll have our Avengers movie as a Smash Brothers movie where they all come together and kill each
Then
other.
we'll get Waluigi Goes to College finally.
Well, Waluigi hopefully is still not in it because he's never going to be in Smash Brothers. I mean, he probably will eventually just because they give in to fans, but
I don't know. Once he gets that degree from college, they might reconsider.
yeah, right. This one is so like, this is a dumb one, but we'll cover it anyway. Go for it. Chuck
E. Cheese is going to be appearing in movies and cartoons. So they're looking to branch out into media for Chuck E. Cheese.
The first thing I thought was, well, it's a sinking ship, and we got to do something for somebody to give a shit about this old property, which no one probably cares about anymore, and probably nobody goes there because of COVID and all that.
Hey, do kids today even know about Chuck E. Cheese? I don't think so.
They do, but only because of Five Nights.
Well, I was thinking the other thing I was thinking about a Chuck E. Cheese movie is like, I want you to make a movie and tell me why you killed Showbiz Pizza. Like, why did Showbiz Pizza get the shaft? That's what I want to know. Because if you remember way back in the day when we were kids, there was a place called Showbiz Pizza, and Chuck E. Cheese was just...
Yeah, where a kid can be a kid.
Chuck E. Cheese was just a drummer. He was just a small part of the band. But then all of a sudden, everybody disappeared, and he was the main person. That's where the story is. We need to know who killed Showbiz Pizza and why Chuck E. Cheese did it. That's what we need to know, and that's what we got to do about this movie.
There's a really cool YouTube channel. Goddamn, I wish I could remember what it's called now. But it really blew up early in the years of YouTube. Somebody actually bought all the puppets from a Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, those scary-ass robots?
They have them, and they like have reprogrammed them to do like pop songs or like hip-hop songs or whatever, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
it's called
I've
like
seen it.
I can't remember what it's called, like Rock City, or I don't know. It's got some sort of like.
Yeah, there's actually, I know what you mean, because there's actually a documentary about that.
Is there?
Yeah, the
Fair
whole
enough.
documentary. It's whatever the band name was of the Showbiz Pizza band. We can look it up real quick. They made a documentary movie about this.
But they do like apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur,
Right.
and it's so good. Like they do such a great job. Like, and they're using the original audio. They're not putting the character voices in there or whatever. But I just
The
really like
Rockefeller
how they,
explosion.
they like jump from character to character, and they've got their little vocal parts, and it's pretty cool.
Another idea for a good Chuck E. Cheese movie would be to make it into a horror movie, because those robots are fucking terrifying. Like, I always wanted to be,
Well, they already kind of made the Nick Cage did kind of like
I know. I was going to say, not to be confused with Willy's Wonderland, which I actually did watch, and it was pretty good. I watched that movie.
I've heard mediocre things about it.
Oh, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, as far as horror movies where Showbiz Pizza type characters kill people, it's pretty good, considering that that's probably the only movie that's like that. So it's I'll give it
which is surprising.
originality for that.
Five Nights blew up like 5 or 6 years ago now, maybe even more. It was back when I first got my Android, so maybe it's like closer to 10 years. Like, I don't know. It's kind of funny to think of the fact that, obviously the whole idea of Chuck E. Cheese, or I guess going back to Showbiz or whatever the original concept was, maybe the what isn't the country bears or whatever, and
Camboree,
yeah. The whole point of this was to like bring cartoons to life. So it's kind of funny they're going the opposite way. They're taking
them
something
back to
that was
cartoons,
bringing cartoons to life, and then turning it back into cartoons. It really seems like a de-evolution, and I don't know how I feel about it. And I might just never watch these cartoons, believe it or not.
You know what? I don't think you're the only one. I think no one's going to watch these cartoons, and they're just going to continue to tank.
But I'm doing it
That's
because I
basically what's gonna
stand
happen.
for things.
I'm just
stand for things.
I'm just telling you, this is them just like trying to do whatever they can to stay in the business, and I think no one gives a shit whether they're doing movies or cartoons again. Like,
I mean, if you remember,
what kids
the big
even
thing-
remember what it is? Like,
early on in the pandemic, a big thing was that they rebranded themselves to sell pizza. What was it? Named after whoever the rat was,
remember.
the band. Yeah, and so they call it like rat. I can't remember what the rat's name was, but yeah, they became that name, Pizzeria, just to be able to sell their food on Grubhub and stuff when people couldn't actually come to Chuck E. Cheese. They had to keep selling product. They had to keep like their employees employed if possible. So like, what else were they supposed to do? I totally get it. But like, that just kind of like, to me, this just feels like another extension of that. Yeah. That kind of desperation of like, we have to keep this license relevant. We paid a lot of money for it 20 years ago or whatever. And we got to milk it for all it's worth. And mouse milk, you don't get a lot of milk from a mouse.
Ew, that's gross. Yeah, there was a Simpsons episode where they found out that the milk they were feeding the students was actually mouse milk. And it really gross. Milk, yeah. So it was gross. Yeah, Chuck E. Cheese, whatever. Make it a horror movie. If you're gonna make it good, make it a horror movie about the freaky ass robots. I never wanted to be caught behind the.
Anybody who cares about Chuck E. Cheese is old enough to see it as a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to be caught on the stage like when the curtain comes down and I'm just next to these terrifying robots that don't move. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, you could. When I first saw like Meet the Feebles, like the that movie, the Peter Jackson movie, that kind of reminds me of Chuck E. Cheese in a fucked up way. They even did. There was even a regular show episode about like killer Chuck E. Cheese robots that go and try to kill everyone. So it's like everyone, anybody who's of the age that would give a shit about this has thought about that. So if they really want,
as a kid, like I didn't give a shit about the robots. Like whatever, I enjoyed them more as a teenager. Like I think I went there once, like in my late teens, as kind of a joke, just to like go, or maybe it was with my siblings or something. But like then I kind of appreciated the robots more. And since then I've seen Captured by Robots a few times, and my God, like
they're great.
That can be really, really well done. This concept,
and they're terrifying
of
too.
Animatronics performing is actually a really cool concept. It's not just the gimmick it originally started as. There's a lot of possibilities. But I don't know, man. Chuck E. Cheese as a license, that just needs to go away. Like, who cares anymore?
Yeah,
bring back Showbiz. I say bring back Showbiz. Showbiz was more
make that monkey
more of like
make that ape
you
the
were
right
naming
color.
it after one of them. Yeah.
I mean, the ape is like purple now. Like, bring it back to the original black ape. I want to see the original black ape. Like, they pretty much like just gave everybody a facelift. They were all the same robots. They just gave them different skin. Bring them back to their original. Put that scary ass cheerleader lady in there. You remember that one?
Yeah,
that one was really freaky.
She's in that Apple Bottom Jeans video a lot.
I bet. Yeah, my sister had a toy of that one. It would terrify me. She had like one of those like like ones with like all the fur and the like cloth clothes and all that. It was terrifying.
Yeah, as a kid, I do recall it was Showbiz Pizza, and then it became there were the Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz were different, and then when we would like visit our family in Sacramento, we would go to they would take us to Chuck E. Cheese, which I don't know, maybe it changed as it came from the West over, but I never cared about the robots as a kid. It's like whatever, you eat this pizza that I don't even really care that much about, and then
I just
want to go to the ball pit. I want to get the tickets. I want to win the stupid prizes.
Well, I mean, the Showbiz Pizza that I went to in Peoria, we had the Simpsons arcade game, we had the Turtles arcade game, and we had the Star Wars arcade game. So those are the only games I went there to play. Like, I didn't give a shit about anything else. I didn't even eat. I probably wasn't even eating pizza then. Like, when I was a kid, I hated pizza for the longest time. But I was just there to play. I was like, oh, you got the Star Wars one, like where you sit down in, like the big one that you can sit and it has like the big picture Darth Vader on the side and all that. And that's what we were doing, playing the Simpsons and Turtles and all that stuff. I didn't even really care about getting the fake mustache or the mustache comb or whatever from there. But we should move on. Close here.
Here's a big one. The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past is 30 years old as of today, April 13th.
30
Is that the North American release?
The North American release, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's probably older from Japan and all that. A Link to the Past. I should play that game again. I mean, it's been a long time since I've played it. I don't remember when I played it last, actually, to tell you the truth.
Probably my favorite Zelda.
Yeah. It's I always feel like that's a battle between Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past. I think Breath of the Wild, I guess now. But
Ocarina of Time's not even in the running.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, like, I definitely think A Link to the Past has aged a lot better than Ocarina of Time between the two of them, because it's the sprites, they age better, I think, than 3D.
I think it's likely the first Zelda that anyone ever got into. Like, there's a whole generation now that says Wind Waker is the best Zelda ever. For me, it was Ocarina of Time, because that's the first one that I got into. I played the other ones, but I was always over at a friend's house. And but I dove into Ocarina of Time head headlong and never looked back. I think objectively, of course, Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda game ever made, but my personal favorite remains Ocarina of Time.
Sure. I mean, people got their reasons. The first Legend of Zelda, though, that I ever dove into and played and loved was A Link to the Past. So Link to the Past was my first Zelda. I remember watching people play Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 at friends' houses, just watching them play it, and I just didn't understand it. It just never really meant anything to me. And I never beat it. Never beat the first Zelda. Never beat Zelda 2 either because it's super hard. But it just was I'm like, whatever. I just want to play Batman. I want to play all these shitty licensed games because that's what I was into at the time.
Spirit Tracks is the best one. I forgot about that.
I like Spirit Tracks. I know you don't like it, but I like Spirit Tracks.
I just want to imitate a train. No, Spirit Tracks is fine. For me, it really was Zelda 1. Zelda 1 was the first one I got into, and it was because I bought it myself with my birthday money of my 10th birthday. And I never beat it until several years later because I didn't know about the bombing to get to the 9th dungeon. But man, that game for me is just one of the best games ever made. The original Zelda. It's just a perfect game.
But also a perfect game is A Link to the Past, which is the 30th.
It's even more perfect.
No, this was the one that turned me on to Zelda. I didn't own it. A friend of mine lent it to me, and I played it, and he actually lent me his strategy guide as well. So I played it with the strategy guide, and I was like, I love this game. And I still think the soundtrack is really, really good. I still love the theme song for the Dark World, and I love I think one of my favorite Zelda songs is the song. It's like the Sanctuary song, or the opening song with the rain is really good, or the song that when you go into where you have to shoot the targets, that one's really good too. It's just the soundtrack is incredible on it, and it's just I really, really liked it. It was my first Zelda game, but also I still think it's a great, great game. And I played it, I of course played it on Game Boy Advance when they re-released it and gave Link a voice, and it got more annoying, but I still played it all the way through.
The Hyrule Castle theme is pretty amazing, and what they did with it in Wind Waker when you're
it was really good. Yeah. Oh, when the black and white. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was so chilling. I got goosebumps.
Oh yeah. No,
I heard that.
I was playing that at my brother-in-law's house, and we got to that part, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, and then that music started playing from Link to the Past, and I'm like, what? That's awesome. No, I love that they brought Link to the Past in there. Let's. I guess we should talk about the land that we talked about at some point earlier. Yep. Nintendo acquires land for a new development center. What does that mean?
Is in Kyoto.
They acquired Kyoto City owned land, which will be used as a new developmental center, corporate headquarters, building number 2. So they're expanding. They're expanding their development area. So that's cool, right? And they've sold enough Switches that they need to expand it out to other areas.
It's their own version of expansion pack.
Yeah.
What's funny is they showed a mock-up of the building, and it looks exactly like the other building. This exact same prison white brick design,
But they probably want to design it the same way, right? Nobody wants to. Their employees don't want.
Architecture's somewhat understated, other than sacred architecture.
They don't want it to be man, I wish I was in building 1, or man, I was in building 2. It's well, the buildings are the same. So get back to making fucking whatever you're making. So I mean that Nintendo's making some mad money from the Switch, so get another development thing, and that's also
they're making that fucking skyscraper money.
Well, and also don't forget, this is something I don't think is on the notes, but Bandai Namco is working on a re-release of a Nintendo 3D adventure game, 3D action game or whatever. Maybe they're going to develop it in this building. Well, they probably will, but I think that game, and a lot of people online think this, but a lot of people are hoping against hope that maybe that is going to be the re-release of Kid Icarus Uprising, where we actually have good controls and we can play it right and all that. Because Sakurai even said that he was doing another game soon. It's coming out soon. It's not Smash Brothers, because he already did all Smash Brothers stuff. I'm saying. Kid Icarus
needs a rest.
Yeah, but he said he was working on another thing. I don't know. That seems to be the rumor around
Grow
that.
Gray
around
hair
the Bandai.
Just relax.
Around the Bandai
building
thing.
That new development center himself.
Just for
that's
for
actually
Kid Icarus.
the new game. The new design team is actually designing the building and building it. They're going to 3D print the whole thing with their new 3D print division.
They're putting it there. They're going to 3D print Switch 2 out of there. That will only play Breath of the Wild 2 and Kid Icarus Rising Remaster. Whatever.
And they can just extrude styluses, so it'll be nice. There's still going to be a lot more styluses out there in the world.
Or styli, however you say it. Is there anything else you want to talk about in the news, or we can wrap this up?
Let's wrap it up.
All right. I do think it was funny. This last one here. Some people who bought the Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot camp got access to it. I guess
They pre-ordered it. Yeah.
They accidentally let them play it, but a couple days after it got shut down and it was completely removed and they were refunded. So that was just a small flash in a pan. People got to play it for a second and then it was like, nope. Nintendo
did they get it on the original release date? Was that the issue?
I think the idea was that because you could preload it, like people had preloaded it and paid for it, and it accidentally like unlocked like on the day because it was supposed to come out like last week.
Okay,
it was supposed to come out on like the 8th or the 9th, like whatever that Friday was, and I think it just accidentally just still went through because it's done. They just delayed it because of war shit and all that, and yeah, it's happened, but then it was, I guess it became unaccessible somehow, and now they can't play it. It's what I've seen on Twitter of people that posted when they had it. They got to play it for a little bit, and then Nintendo shut that down. So I don't know how they did it, but somehow, I guess through internet connection or whatever. Like if you weren't on the internet, could you have just kept it and played it for however long? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. But that's been our episode. Thanks everybody for listening to episode 316. If you want to hear more of our voices, go to patreon.com/NintenDomain podcast and listen to our bonus shows on Patreon. For just $1, you'll hear those bonuses. And for $5, you'll hear our the WAOT radio, where we use all of the intro and outro songs of each episode and put it into a nice playlist. You can listen to it. Also, you can watch videos of us recording the episode early for $5, and you can see that, if you want to see our whatever faces before it actually gets posted and all that stuff. Plus, there's extra ones for physical goodies and all that stuff. And I think you
can see all the times we flip each other off. Which is a lot.
you get to see. You also get physical stuff if you're at the $5 levels. Like I got there was like a sticker that was sent out. There's supposed to be like some other little things as well for people who are on that on a certain amount of time. So check that out. Also, if you want to see me try to stream stuff again, go to twitch.tv/NintenDomain podcast. Also, you can find Jeremy and I on Twitter at Nintendo_domain and at JMaxStack. Also, youtube.com/NintenDomain podcast. You can find stuff on there as well. And we've been your hosts. I'm Trey Johnson.
I'm Jerry Mikowski.
I'm John Litter.
And thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
There was that announcement saying that like Bandai Namco was...
Bando Namkui.
Bando Namkai is another one of those Star Wars characters.
It sounds like one, right?